Hello, it's me. I'm here. You're here. We scream, you scream, all for ice cream. Hi. Hope everybody's doing okay so far. It's Wednesday, my dudes. It's hump day. I'm trying some new things with my hair. I feel like I just want to like hush for a second, okay? This is what's happening with it right now. Wow, look at what I've done. It only looks good on this side. If I flip it over to the way that my hair is usually parted, it doesn't look good, but now you get to see my like bald spot instead. Yay, bald spot time. So yeah, this is what we're working with today. I'm trying to encourage my hair to do its natural wave pattern, and it turns out like this is, I think, one of the more intense versions of it that I've managed to get. So wow, what a hair journey. Anyway, let's not focus on that too much because nobody cares. Hi. What's up, kitty? Solus, welcome and happy birthday over in the YouTube chat. Happy birthdays, hypers for Solus in the chat. Yes, we're having a good time. Music stopped before I had the time to learn to play it on the piano. Rip in pieces. So sorry. Yes, my hair is very big today. Yes. Hello, mama. Oh yeah, you were definitely not planning to prank me. I know. I wasn't witness to any plotting in the chat of you guys deliberately attempting to prank me. Absolutely not. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to my birthday. I'm realizing so my birthday is actually on a day that we would normally be streaming anyway, in March. And so I'm thinking I should just go ahead and do like a birthday show and just be like, "Hey, what's up? It's my normal stream day. It's my birthday." Cuz I think that is more or less what I did last year or maybe the year before. I can't remember. Um yeah, cuz last year I was streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sundays. So I would have streamed on my birthday. So yeah, I can't actually remember how time works. It's in March. It's at the end of March. So I'm looking forward to it. But I think that aside from, stream, which I would love to do, just like we're gonna chat kind of stream, maybe politics, depends on what's going on at the time. And then probably like on the weekend before or after my birthday, I'll do something for myself. Because I'm starting to get that feeling like I'm gonna need to put effort into it to make myself feel special, you know? What's up, everybody? So many names. My birthday, there's an above 50% chance I will be in a hospital waiting for my baby or home with new tiny baby. No. I mean, yeah. I guess if you're older, so maybe you don't care as much about your birthdays, and so it won't be that big of a deal to like basically share a birthday with your kid, but man, I would certainly feel some type of way about it. My HRT day is in March. Nice. Nice. The due date is 6 days later than your birthday. Fingers crossed that it's not exactly on your day, I guess. Or maybe if it's on your birthday, then that'll make it like a nice thing. Like now it'll add value to your birthday. I don't know. Anyhoozle. Um, I used to be kind of ambivalent about my birthday, and then I decided that so once I stopped wanting to unalive all the time, now I care more about my birthday and I want to like celebrate it because I feel like, yay, I'm alive. I did it. I've made it. Celebrate me. I need a day that's for me. I want to be acknowledged. Me, my mom, and dad all born in March. My sister was born in December. She escaped the pattern. Yes, it turns out we do like celebrating it, or we are alive more when being alive doesn't suck. But I think it's important to celebrate in order so that you feel like life doesn't suck. Does that make sense? Like, you might want to come up with things to be positive about and to celebrate, I would say. By the way, it's the beginning of the show. We're kind of just gonna chill for a minute. We'll talk about Vowsh shortly, but we usually chill for a little while at the beginning of the show, easing into it, okay? But yeah, like celebrating, like coming up with things to be happy about. Like I had kind of a rough therapy with my therapist today, and then, she checked in with me about, oh, what are your plans with the community garden? And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like that is something that I am really looking forward to. So even though I feel like certain aspects of my life are a little bit out of control, I'm still, you know, there's still stuff to look forward to. There's stuff that I'm excited about. And I had to come up with that. And then she also suggested to me some places where I could get some seeds. And I was like, girl, I love my therapist. She's great. But yeah, stuff to look forward to. Facebook has figured me out now, so it'll show me gardening memes. And I keep seeing this general vibe. It's always formatted slightly differently, but this repetitive theme of, uh, people think that gardening starts in March or April in the springtime, but really it starts in January with the dream. And it's like funny to me because it's true. I'm sitting here in January, like figuring out exactly how I'm going to plot things, which things I'm going to plant next to what, how many plants of each I'll have, and all that jazz. Like, yeah. Mine's at the end of March, y'all. I am an Aries. I don't believe in that stuff. My birthday is in July, so between my birthday and New Year's, I get an existential crisis every half year. Every 6 months, you get the biannual existential crisis. Good stuff. I think that it's like, am I going to be way too hot if I wear my hat? I do kind of want to wear my hat, though. Okay. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Wow. That's pretty cute. You know, not going to lie. Not going to lie. That's pretty cute. Okay. All right. Just leave it. Cool. Anyway, so I don't have like a lot of news stuff prepared today, just to be clear. We've got like the Vowsh. I am kind of interested in talking about there was a lawsuit. So some drag queen in the UK sued a guy for libel after the guy called the drag queen, you know, a groomer and stuff, all that jazz. And the drag queen just won the case, which is like pretty fucking good news. And it's a pretty, like, a good precedent, because free speech stuff is not as loosey-goosey as it is here. Or, sorry, other way around? Yeah, no. You can get away with saying a lot of shit in the United States, and there's a pretty high burden of proof for, like, libel and slander, etc. And in the UK, it's a little bit more tricky, which is why folks who are criticizing J.K. Rowling have to be careful about calling her transphobic, because she can sue them for, if they did it on Twitter, then it would be probably libel. So, yeah. Interesting, though. We'll see how much more, like, that, if that sets a precedent, then lots of people in the UK probably have cause to go after some turf for calling them a pedophile, or, yeah. I put a few things in the stream Rex for an Iowa anti-trans bill that just got killed today. Oh, did it get killed? The disability one? Oh my god, I'm not gonna cover it. If it got killed, then holy shit, I'm not gonna cover it, because I was like, that's a can of worms. Like, wow. Put an ice pack on your head, that'll balance out the temperature. Yeah, I need like a pocket. I need a special, like, boob pocket for an ice pack to keep myself cool. By the way, if you're enjoying hanging out, hit the like button. And if you're gonna leave because you don't want to hang out and chill, then hit the like button before you go. But either way, it helps the show every single time. And this is my job. Job, capital J. And I appreciate your help. The bill sponsor talked about kids identifying as helicopters. The one joke. They're not getting away from the allegations. Put my keys away. Don't need those. Not beating the allegations. Ooh, that's cool. Solace. While looking into Imbolc, I found that Hecate is the patron goddess of travelers, people who find themselves at a crossroads, both figuratively and literally, and for the marginalized and rejects of society. So I will be devoting all my witchcraft to her. I decided that Tyche is cool. I guess in the Roman tradition, you might know her as Fortuna, but Fortuna is kind of a goddess of good luck, whereas Tyche is a goddess of the fickle whims of fate, and I like her. Yeah. They had a speaker say that trans rights allowed straight men to, yeah, do all kinds of literally gross stuff that would be actually illegal anyway, no matter who was doing it. Fortunately, there were a few hundred opponents to the bill and only 3 who showed up in favor of it. Oh my god. That's such a relief. Like, I guess they couldn't even pay people to show up. Like, I don't know. They only managed to pay like that one person to say something crazy. Always be hitting the like button. True. There's always, literally anytime you hit the like button, so the stream like gets slightly boosted in the algorithm and immediately a couple more people come in. So yes, we're going to be basically responding to a Vowsh video today here in a little bit. But I think it's good to like have a variety of subjects, and that means that you're going to kind of like lose people, but I think it does mean that the people who do enjoy the stream and stay for the longest are people who are just like either there because they like your personality, which is a lot of it, that's the majority of it, or because they do happen to share a lot of your interests. So I'm like, we're building a community of people who will listen to me talk about crochet. And look at, these are leaves. I'm making a shirt with leaves. It's going to take a lot of leaves, as you can see. But yeah, I've made like 11 of them. And they take about 40 minutes each. So if that tells you anything about how much time I spend at my desk just kind of going nee 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 nee. That's one of my pastimes. And I don't talk about it on stream that much, TBH. Is it about the racist stuff he said about Hassan? No. At least I didn't think that that's what it was. I thought that it was this take about patriarchy. Like, that Vowsh was saying on Twitter that patriarchy hurts men as well as women. And apparently some people were really annoyed with maybe just the way that he put that take. But yeah, so he's going to respond to it in his little video, and I'm going to respond to his little video, and we're going to try to have fun with it. Oh god, the pharmacy finally had Adderall. It definitely works better for me than Ritalin. I'm really glad that you got some of your medicine. And I'm also really grateful that Ritalin works for me because, wow, everything about my job is so much easier. I just started getting into embroidery. It's cool seeing others' hobbies. Yeah, my partner got me a Nightmare Before Christmas cross-stitch set that for Christmas that I'm not wildly enthused about trying, but I am interested in, like, if it feels anywhere remotely as calming as doing crochet. Kitty loves cross-stitch. Okay, good to know. I got new beans, tomatoes, and several sweet/semi-sweet peppers. I learned something last night, chat. I learned something very important last night, as a matter of fact. Did you know, if you're cooking dried beans, that for certain types of beans, they really, really need, like, at least a 20-hour soak. They really need, like, an overnight, really seriously 24-hour soak. And then you really should boil them and then go ahead and make your dinner with them, because there's like some chemical in, like, particularly red beans, like and cannellini beans, and it gives you like food poisoning symptoms, like gastrointestinal distress, basically out both ends. So that's a little fun fact that I didn't know. If you're going to be eating dried beans, vinegar within the cook helps too, helps break down the protein and reduces the gas. Yeah. So you want to soak them, and then you want to drain off all that water because it will have soaked into it. As a Louisianan, well, listen, a lot of people I know, I don't think they cook dried beans. I think people feel like, oh, I have to soak them overnight. I'm not going to think that far ahead. So I initially bought a bunch of dried beans because I was thinking to myself, I have an Instant Pot. I have a pressure cooker that can potentially make the beans do that thing in a shorter period of time, which I still have not tried because that's also a pain in the ass. It's like genuinely more of a pain in the ass than just soaking the beans. But yeah, not knowing what exactly to do with the food once you have it, and when there's the option of buying it in a can, there really is an appeal. But I was just curious if I could save like a significant amount of money by buying beans dried first. Can confirm the first steps to a red beans and rice involves a long time soaking the beans. Indeed, long times. Are you telling me there are beans that can get me out of my obligations? Well, they will also be like a more bitey texture than you want beans to be, because basically they end up kind of undercooked. Isn't rice the same way, but only in continental America? The problem with rice is that if it's grown in America, it's probably grown in parts of the southern US that have a lot of arsenic in the soil. So, what you would need to do in order to ensure that there is no arsenic in it or to reduce the level of arsenic in it is you actually have to cook that rice like you would cook pasta. At least that's what I've read. So you have to cook it with a lot of extra water and then drain it when you're done. And so you end up with a really, really, really wet rice, which is not always preferable. So what I do when I'm buying rice is I just buy a rice that says product of Thailand or something on it, because I'm like, okay, well, it was distributed from wherever in the US, but it says it's a product of Thailand, which means that it probably was grown there. If it doesn't specify product of a country other than the USA, I'm not going to buy it because I don't want there to be arsenic in my rice. I want to put in a small rice paddy and plant wild rice in it. It needs to be like constantly moist, doesn't it? I don't know anything about growing rice. I've been wondering how much of a possibility it is, because rice is such a staple food across so much of the planet. It's a bog-like environment. I guess that would be a really good way to use, if you have part of your land that just really doesn't drain well, you could at least put it to use by growing rice over there, or growing, I don't know, cattails or anything else that is kind of like boggy and wetlandy, because you can eat parts of cattails, I think, and you can also use the fibers. I've seen rice grown along with crawfish before. Ooh. Every time I've had crawfish, they've been cooked up Cajun style, and so I like Cajun spices. So yummy. Are there any nerds in chat who can tell me the relationship between arsenic in our soil/food and climate change? Is it just a hunch that that's a thing? Yeah, well, I mean, I imagine it's because whatever human activity is resulting in, because I don't think that there's just naturally arsenic in the soil in Louisiana or Arkansas or wherever they're growing this rice. I don't think that there's just, it must be because of some industrial output, right? It has to be something along those lines. I have carnivorous plants, so I need a bog anyways. Also, the sand pit is basically a bog down on our low part because there is a pond at the far end of the property. I'm gonna plant bamboo down there. Oh, I love the idea of having a pond and growing. You can grow water lilies because the rhizome of the water lilies is like a tuber. I guess it's supposed to be similar to eating like a turnip or a potato. Arsenic is naturally occurring in some soil. Okay. Giant timber bamboo is required soon. Giant timber bamboo for building? You're gonna grow bamboo for building? That's pretty fucking baller. I need a bog so I can be a swamp witch. I guess it grows faster than trees, right? Bamboo. Does it make structures that last as long? That's fascinating. Anyway, if you're here and you haven't normally been here, we do kind of talk about growing food and growing and like producing our own resources, because if you didn't know, we are genuinely on the way toward imminent economic collapse within the next 30 years. And yeah, so I can get rhizomes from a place down the coast that are ready to plant in. Ooh. Some types of bamboo are very invasive. I would imagine so. Two-thirds of China and India is built with bamboo. I'm sure that it's quite sturdy. My neighbors had some bamboo and it almost took over the whole neighborhood. Yeah, I suppose if people really need the resource, then you'll be growing it and cutting it down and growing it and cutting it down. Sorry, I hit the microphone. saw a YouTube video of a woman building what I think is like a porch couch slash seating out of bamboo, and it's amazing. Cool. The lady who owns bees told me that she cleaned their wax and is selling some of it. It's good for waxing hair off, so I got 2 jars. Oh, for waxing hair off. I got 2 jars of wax for waxing. Hell yeah. Waxing your legs or something. Good stuff. Yeah, so that is one of the things that we talk about pretty regularly since it's going to be necesito. So, yeah, looking forward to my garden this year. I'm probably going to end up growing some flowers that are supposed to help manage pests, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm kind of bummed out. Like, honestly, I'm having a bit of a bummer day, but I'm trying to have a good attitude about it. So, if I seem just like a little kind of slow, it's because I feel kind of like garbage. It was like one of those days where you cry before your shift, but it's not about going to work. You just happen to cry before work, but you do still have to go to work, and you're like, oh, now I get to be tired. Got to get bees so I can have wax for sealing wood. It makes a good addition to pitch pine glue as a varnish. I have thought about that. Wax for sealing things. You can use it to seal bottles as well. Like, it's good shit. Wax. My partner lives in Southeast Asia, and his house has a lot of wood and bamboo. It survives earthquakes and volcanic eruptions on the regular, so I'm sure bamboo is good enough for the West, too. True. Is that, Indonesia? I think you said before? I'm too crippled to grow food, but I can make fibers into string, yarn, and make them pretty colors, so hopefully I'll be useful still. I think even, like, if your labor is just something that you do with your hands, or if you're just, like, thinking and planning and organizing, like, all of these different skills are still useful. There's going to be the rare person who genuinely can't literally participate in any way, and we're not going to, like, leave those people out in the woods, right? But basically most people can find something cool to do to contribute to a community effort of survival, which is the goal. It's so interesting having completely different goals to most people, because I frankly don't think that most people are thinking about the stuff that I'm thinking about. And I don't know how much I'm influencing other people either. I would like to be, I suppose. But, like, yes, I'm focused on the anti-trans laws. That's terrifying. I'm very directly affected by that, so I'm talking about it a lot. And I'm glad that people like Vowsh talk about it, and, like, other folks out there who aren't directly affected, who are raising awareness anyway. It's good stuff. But even that is kind of taking a back seat for me right now, because it's just going to keep happening. Like, at this point, the states that are red are going to pass as restrictive laws as possible. They may or may not get struck down in the Supreme Court, and there's going to be sanctuary states that have, like, safe laws, and, like, it's just, I don't know, I'm just not thinking about it that much, because while, like, even if Democrats remain in power, they're not going to do anything about the climate. So I'm just, my prerogative and my perspective when I'm thinking about my 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plan is just dramatically different than other people's. I don't even know if other people have a long-term plan, but because I can very clearly see how things are going to play out, or how I believe that they're going to play out, like, I don't know. Linseed oil is from flax, a fiber source plant, so probably a pretty important crop. Yeah, someone mentioned flax before. How does flax grow? Is it kind of like a cattail? What's up, Noah? Wood-topped clay jars with waxed cloth / woven plant fibers under the lid can be great. You then wrap the whole thing in clay again like old wine. This is one of my favorite parts of being in this community. I've been growing my skill set for this for a very long time, and I love sharing. Politics are so whimsical, I can't with them anymore. Yes. Mama says, my long-term plan: 1, get ripped. 2, people do stuff for me because they want a muscle mommy. 3, profit. I can't see any problems with that whatsoever. I'm so excited to get back to the gym. I'm like, I can't. It's so obnoxious that I'm so busy all the time. But I've promised myself I'm gonna go back. I'm giving myself a vacation soon. I'm still not exactly sure when I'm gonna get the vacation. I'm hoping like as early as next week, but I don't know. As early as next week. Excuse me. And yeah. Kind of influenced me to abandon typical success and pick up my family's generational trade of textile arts. Does more for society. The world can fall over and over, but we always will need clothes. That's true. Yeah, like pursuing something that is useful and a passion. I have a friend who runs a business where they dye yarn. Like, I think that they do spin sometimes. At this point, they're maybe even spinning their own yarn. But yeah, they like create custom dye and like here's pride related dye yarn. It's good stuff. I'm gonna have mommy milkers soon. That will help me. You're gonna have mommy milkers? Are you getting top surgery or is that from inducing lactation? The people who cancel Vowsh are just people who give any excuse to be complacent. I really don't think that people who try to cancel Vosh at this point, like, are very serious for the most part. I'm just gonna cover it because I want to talk about the concept of does bigotry harm the dominant group, basically? And that's what the video is about. It's about like, does patriarchy help or hurt men ultimately? Hello, Noah. Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. I appreciate that. Enjoy your dicks. That's a $5 dono. Look at that. Hey. If we get to $100, as per usual, I will show you the tank top that I'm wearing, and I will flex my muscles. What little muscles I still have, because I haven't been going to the gym regularly since, December. I was going to the gym a lot in December, and then I just haven't gone back since Christmas. Kitty, that's literally one of my thought processes right now behind do I actually want to get phalloplasty? Because the idea of having to replace the implant every 10 to 20 years, like, I don't want to need that level of medical care just in case the whole system collapses. Yeah, cancel just means people got mad on Twitter in this instance when we're talking about Vosh right now. Damn you, Lux, give me my green name back. Oh no. You've taken it back from me. Okay, yeah, it is breastfeeding. Yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad that you're gonna get the opportunity to do that. Okay, I don't need this. Hello. And then after we get done with Vosh, we probably have some other stuff. I mean, I guess we should probably do Vosh first. And then we can move into the other things. Last night, my wife and I talked about getting a new pet. We have a very old cat. Yeah, I mean, it might be easier to do it now rather than doing it later. Like, you know, if you get a new cat, then the old cat might rub off on it a little bit, and you'll start to see those personality traits, which might be nice to have after the old cat passes away. I've also been thinking about replacing my dicks. True, dicks. Yeah, fair enough. A guy in my neighborhood makes his own wines and stuff and gifts on Xmas to people. Ooh. I'm so sketch on stuff like winemaking because I feel like it can so easily spoil. But I don't know. It's probably one of those things that it's just, I don't know what I don't know. So if I were to learn some more details on it, it would probably be pretty easy. I just haven't gone and found them in my DMs. Yeah. Sorry. That's just me having a long list of things I need to do. Like, I don't even have paper at my desk right now. Do I have paper at my desk? That's a piece of paper. There we go. Yeah, it's not that I decided not to use them. I just forgot that I needed to go in and get them in on my DMs. He's been doing the winemaking according to his neighbors for like 14 years. Winemaking and gifting? Listen, I guess he knows what he's doing at this point. I did look into learning how to make mead, but I also realized that I don't think I like honey enough to drink a honey wine, which is effectively what mead is. The process of making wine can be done with literally anything that has sugar in it, and then you will end up with alcohol and the flavor of whatever. So, the sugar, if it's grapes, we call that wine, and it's fermented, and the yeast in it creates alcohol, and then you're left with like grape taste to varying degrees. And then if you do it with honey, you end up with mead, which tastes like honey to varying degrees. There's like other ways to do it as well. And that's, raspberry wine. You use raspberries instead of grapes. Same process. I love mead. I guess I do enjoy it. I just don't know if I enjoy it enough to get into a whole mead making thing. But you know what? Maybe if someday I have some honey and I have way too much honey, maybe I'll be like, oh, well, I could keep putting this in more and more and more jars, but I could also make some of it into mead. I've had enough different meads to know it's not as simple as a blanket statement of liking or disliking mead. It's also, even, within one, if you made the same batch of mead and you had like 3 bottles of it at the end of the process, if you only, if you decant one of those after 1 month, it's probably going to kind of suck. But if you wait like 2 or 3 months to decant the other ones, they'll probably be pretty good. Because also the amount of time that you age it does matter for mead, in the sense that you want to do like a minimum of 2 months. And there's different varieties of honey, yeah, for sure. What's up, Dormy? Very good trade item someday. True. Yeah, I guess. And yeah, because you need to age it, you can just have like a decent amount of mead in dry storage for like a while. My buddy makes mead and sells the bottles to his friends for favors, like doing work on his cars. I do think that is kind of supposed to be regulated, isn't it? Hi, if you're just coming in, hit the like button. We're just going to hang out for a couple minutes more, and then we'll switch to covering Vowsh. But we are going to very soon, okay? It's hard to find mead where I am, but I've liked everyone that I've tried so far. No money changed hands. Okay, I see. Oh, trades for favors. Okay, I see. What is white honey? I've never heard of white honey before. I want to get to 50 likes. That's what I really want. 50, if possible 69, but let's just start with something reasonable, okay? 50. I have no idea what white honey is, though. It sounds delicious. It sounds incredible. It sounds like some bougie shit, right? Like white truffles. I feel like my mannerisms are very gay today. It's not really intentional, it's just how it's happening. Yes, exactly. 69. That's the ideal. Ideally, I would like to get to 69. But not always possible. Not always possible. Be gay, do stream. Be gay, do stream. What does unas annas mean? It means 1 year. It was a YouTube channel that the creators deleted. White honey is honey made from kiawe trees in Hawaii, and it is delicious. Ooh, okay. It is a gay day. I don't have do I have gayness? Can I make gayness? And I guess I can make raveness happen. Rave. This is as gay as I can make it. I guess I could technically put it on... Like, this is... I don't like this setting, though. RGB actually makes everything go faster. It's like when you put flames on the side of your car. Whoa, it makes you go faster. And it also makes you drop the remote control in a place where you're not sure where it is. Ugh. Oh, no. Ah. You guys don't even want to know how cramped my office is. Like, it's crazy in here. Okay, what was this? This one was this color, and this one was this color. Great. Ugh, no. I got some Christmas mead over Christmas. It was like mulled wine, but mead. Ooh. The red one looks like you're sitting in an oven. Maybe I am. I'm in hell. No bisexual lighting, shake my head. There's this one, but it kind of, I mean, I guess... Well, so I would just have to do it manually, right? Because there's one that rotates between the colors, but it flashes a lot. So I would have to manually go, like... I don't know, something like that? Or that one, maybe? Is that bisexual enough? I don't know if it counts. Or does it need to be the other way around? This one needs to be blue. And this one can be pink. Wow. It's something like bisexual colors. It's something akin to that. But the colors that I have chosen right now, this is actually supposed to be white, but it looks bluish. But it's white. And then this one is red for Imbolc, which is Pagan Holiday on February 2nd. I am so slouchy right now. It's like... My God, I gotta sit up more. That feel when you tired. I'm pretty sure all Christmas lights are bisexual. True. I hate when people think I move my wrist delicately because I'm gay or want to seem more gay. It truly is just pure rheumatoid arthritis. Yes, I am a glamorous gay boy, but also in pain. I feel that. I don't know. I've never really thought about, do I use my hands delicately? I'm sure that I am more careful than most people because I hurt my hands pretty easily. Sag. It's the EDS for me, I know. I don't qualify, I don't think, as having EDS specifically, but I do have some kind of mixed connective tissue problem. So my hands, my wrists, my elbows, my knees, my hips, all of the muscles in my body, my heart, so many things are affected. Do your joints go clicky? I mean, I think that is, I mean, I'm 30 years old, so if you get to my age, it is pretty normal for your knees to go clicky. So it's more like everything just hurts. But yes, like my sternum pops. Has anybody ever had their sternum pop? It's a pretty regular thing for me. Do you know any non-binary people who become binary trans people like years later? I'm sure it happens. It's not the typical narrative as far as I know it. The typical narrative as far as I know it is usually that someone initially identifies as a binary gender and then later they come out as non-binary. That's more typical as far as my personal anecdotal experience, but I don't know, like, what is actually more common. Everybody I know denies that sternum pops happen. Yeah, it's like when you're it usually happens to me when I'm stretching like this, and then my sternum will crack, or like it'll pop. But I also have a pectus excavatum, so. Oh, it actually just occurred to me to wonder if that makes bras fit weird on me. But, like, I didn't notice this for a really long time because of the tits. But, my chest actually dips in the middle. And that is consistent with having a connective tissue disorder. But, it low-key sucks to feel the need to pop the sternum, but sometimes it's what's needed. It always happens accidentally to me. I'll just be, like, going and it's like... and it doesn't hurt, and it's not uncomfortable, but it is just like, yeah, my sternum just popped. What's up, Horties? Hello, Silent. Hello. We're chilling like villains. Autumn initially was identifying as NB and is now just binary. Okay. I just have personally known a lot more people who it seems like they initially go, I'm a binary trans person, and later you're like, "Yeah, actually, they're non binary." You're like, oh, cool. And it's like, were you non binary the whole time and you just were comfortable doing a binary version of a transition in order to be comfortable? And then once you reached that point, you became more comfortable being openly non binary? Or did you actually not realize you were non binary until you got to a certain point in what was originally meant to be a binary transition? I don't know. I'm sure it's different for everybody. Oh gosh. The yawning is so annoying right now. I woke up hardcore at like 4 this morning and I had a really hard time falling back asleep. Anybody else overheat at night quite significantly? This has me paranoid about my own chest now because bras fit weird and I pop my sternum and I can't say for sure if my ribs are flat or concave. I mean, I think that bras fit weird mostly because trans girls on average have bigger rib cages and smaller cup sizes. So it's actually really hard to get one that fits in that way. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious if there are more trans girls than I think who have connective tissue disorders. Like, it's pretty common, excuse me, for AFAB NBs or AFAB like trans men or whatever to have connective tissue problems, but I don't know if it's as common for trans girls. Whose eye is this staring at me and why does it have scales? It's my dragon. He's my buddy. Oh, true. Yeah, some places if you are trans and you're seeking healthcare, the insurance or even the National Health Service won't cover it if you're non-binary. That's true. Always, yeah, hot sleeper. I wake up because my mouth is so dry I can't sleep anymore. Does that count? I think so. My last ex was trans femme and had EDS. There's one. Some of us are carrying T-sized skeletons on E-level connective tissue. Yeah, and estrogen, as far as I can tell, seems to increase the impact. The only thing that really wakes me up is the need to pee. I'm jealous. I think I was like, I don't want to shit talk because I love my partner and I'm glad that we share a bed. That's a thing that I really value. But also, I think probably part of the reason why I don't sleep super well is that I'll be comfortable temperature wise, and then he will want to cuddle me in the middle of the night, and then I will start to overheat and wake up and need to like readjust my blankets and stuff in order to accommodate the cuddling. And it's not bad, but it is like, oh God, sometimes I'm just like, please let me sleep. I think that it just last night would just happen to be a night that I was easily woken up quite a bit. So that's why I'm a sleepy boy. Yeah, E actually changes your connective tissue. That's why trans guys will talk about T making them taller or their feet growing, etc. I mean, I don't know how directly those things are related to connective tissue per se. Like, I get, yeah, I don't know how the taller would be affected by it. Yeah, cuddling is nice and would be nicer if you didn't also have to share body heat every time. If I lived in a cold place where I didn't have heat, I would be beyond like over the moon grateful that I have a person who to share the covers with, you know? Estrogen make flexible. Yeah. Because when you're pregnant, you have an increased amount of flexibility and you need it in order to shove a baby out of your body. You need to, like, your organs need to accommodate it and everything. Disgusting. One time I watched a little GIF of, like, it was as though you could see, the profile of a pregnant person as, like, the fetus grows inside them. And you can see, the cross section inside the body, the fetus growing, and the organs. And they get, like, all shoved up. And it's, like, really disgusting to me. Forrest Valkai did Hot Ones? You can't be real on that. There's no way. Yeah, I see. I knew better. There's no Forrest Valkai on Hot Ones. I recently purchased something which could very well end up being my downfall. That is a hell of a statement. You made me way less cold tolerant too. Yeah, it does. It kind of, like, changes your metabolism and stuff and makes you cold. I have a can of Monster Beast, the alcoholic monster. Just only drink it at home. If you're gonna mix energy drinks and alcohol, just do it at home. Because the problem with it is that there's a certain point with the alcohol where you would normally start to get sleepy. But if you're ingesting energy drinks along with the alcohol, then you have more energy past that point, which means you can keep getting drunk and keep making bad decisions. And it's like, it raises the likelihood of people not remembering things. Like, yeah. It's not dangerous in the sense of, like, I don't think, I mean, like, alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, but I don't think that caffeine is, like, a very serious central nervous system stimulant. Can't be easy on your heart either. Yeah, probably not. It's fun when you're tall enough for the difference in morning and night height to be literal inches. You're just like, ooh, ooh. Over the course of the day, you're just like, I'm heavy, and now I'm short. Gravity. I was far more stupid drinking Jaeger bombs and vodka Red Bull than when I was drinking Long Island's. Long Island iced tea is just like, here's a bunch of shit thrown together. It's, you're just drinking to get fucked up if you're ordering a Long Island iced tea. And yeah, bartenders know that you're there to be annoying. You're prepared to be annoying. My best friend from back in WV's older brother was a functional alcoholic and preferred Jaeger bombs over anything else, so I am pretty used to this sort of thing. True, but COVID increases your risk of cardiac events, so please be careful. As someone who works in a blood lab, the idea of turbocharging my heart and dilating my blood vessels makes me cringe like a baby possum. Yay, that's what POTS is. Save money by buying in bulk too. I buy at least 10 pounds of rice at a time. The last time I bought rice, it was a big fuck off bag like that big. It was great. Also, buy 5 pounds of quinoa, polenta, and oats. And I have a killer pantry. I live on SSD, so must eat cheap. True. The thing about a Long Island is that if you get the ratios right, it tastes remarkably like a lemon tea and not like it has 4 different bottom shelf liquors on it. Yeah, but and it has so much in it that if you drink 2 of them, you're, like, gonna be pretty fucked up. Like, one Long Island iced tea, according to a bartender that I follow on YouTube, is like, okay, you might be tolerable, but the fact is that you're gonna get a second one, and after you have that second one, you're gonna become an annoying customer. Oh. Buy big bags of flour in cloth bags and they stay better way longer. I haven't, well, God, I should be using more flour because I should be baking bread like twice a week, probably. I had to stop having caffeine. Yeah, I have now switched to decaf coffee. I'm officially on decaf. My partner roasted my whiteness levels when he saw my tiny 0.5 kilo bag of rice, but several options of potatoes. Listen, as a white person, you can claw potatoes from my cold, dead hands. I love potatoes. I've bought bags of rice with weevil infestations before, so that is an asterisk on getting large bags and buying in bulk. Were they living weevils? Like what? And can you just get rid of the weevils and like then you have rice? Is it fine? Oh, I'm not supposed to have any caffeine because of seizures. Ah, that's hard. Yeah, it's tough. The decaf haters, listen, it tastes fine. I'm already buying Dunkin' Donuts brand coffee beans and then mixing it with Coffee Mate creamer. So like, yeah, it's already not the highest quality coffee. And it as far as like between the difference between the regular and the decaf, it tastes basically the same. It allows me I tried to drink tea. I really did. I was like, I need to replace coffee in my life, and I really tried to drink tea, and I just don't like it. I mean, it's fine once in a while, occasionally. A really, really lovely, nice, high quality tea that's like properly milk and sugar ratio. Oh, yeah, it's good. The next time I get a drink after work, I should just be like, I don't want you to have to pour me multiple alcohols. Just give me one with sweet and sour mix and Coke so it tastes like a tea. True. That works, right? Sweet and sour mix and Coca-Cola. You can freeze rice and make peace with eating potential weevil eggs and larvae, but yeah, rice weevils, not common, but they do happen. You got to be prepared for pests. It do happen like that sometimes. I've tried tea, chamomile, and other non-tea hot drinks. Something made from wheat that looks like instant coffee. I've heard people say good things about roasting dandelion roots and making something akin to coffee out of that. I've never personally tried it, but it's really fascinating to me. I think that I want, if I ever have the opportunity to like grow things on my own land or in my own area, I do want to have an area where I specifically grow dandelion for eating. So I mean, also like hypothetically, it's good to have a specific area that's like this is early flowers for the bees. Dandelions are my favorite flower. Do you know this? Things become my favorite something or other because of their use in the ecosystem. I've noticed. I don't have a favorite flower based on which one's pretty or smells the nicest. My favorite flower is dandelion because it's an extremely important early spring food source for bees, and it's also extremely useful. You can eat almost all of the parts of it. Like, don't eat the stems, but you can eat the flowers. You can make tea out of them. You can make mead out of them, or wine, or whatever you want to call it, like dandelion wine. You can make salads or cook the leafy greens. You can either cook up or again roast the roots. All I'm hearing is extra protein, rice weevils, extra protein. True. Whenever I used to make my own Long Islands, I do a Long Island mix of alcohols, sweet and sour mix, and Coke. Nice. That's interesting. I've never, I don't know. When I make my own alcoholic beverages at home, lately my partner and I will just drink straight whiskey. Sometimes we have beer, but honestly, like, I need to start exercising before I drink more beer. Like, beer is such high calorie bullshit. So we drink whiskey a lot of the time. But when I'm making myself drinks, I usually just make myself dirty martinis, honestly. Dirty martinis are my jam. Salty deliciousness. Dandelion love in the chat. Love them. Fuck lawns. Little flowers are cute. Buying spices in 1 pound bags is way cheaper. The jars are like 2 ounces for $5, but 1 pound is like $12. So you save $28. Salt, pepper, granulated garlic, and onion. I don't know if you... Do you go through those things fast enough to justify buying a pound at a time? Like, they don't lose... Do they not lose their flavor? I've never seen 1 pound bags of those spices either, I don't think. Maybe just not at my grocery store. Butterscotch liqueur and Dr. Pepper is the best shit ever. Nice. What did we have? We had like, it was butterscotch liqueur and Bailey's. Butterscotch liqueur plus Bailey's. It tastes like a Werther's Original candy. Those are dangerous. My partner got fucked up on those one time. My favorite drink is Bee's Knees. Double shot of gin, lime juice, honey, shaken, and rim the glass with orange oils. Ooh. I would love to make that. Like, I actually specifically bought like a certain shaker set because I liked that style. I don't like being a drinker like too regularly at this point. Like, I want to do it less. But I do really enjoy the sort of fun and the ritual of like doing your little, like, ooh, I'm gonna add this much of this and this much of this and this much of this, and oh, there's the ice, and then just like, it's just a really fun little ritual. And you can do all of those little things and make non-alcoholic cocktails so that you still have all your little ritual aspects. I know someone who's going sober from alcohol right now who is doing that very same thing. What's up, Ramya? It's like alchemy, a little bit. It's a lot of fun. Three months is a good rule for fresh spices, but they can keep for years. I mean, I'll buy a thing this big of basil and it'll last like a year. I don't use a lot of my herby stuff. I honestly just think that because fresh herbs are just better. Yeah. Sorry if anybody's hungry, by the way. This happens on my stream sometimes. We get on tangents and talk about cooking and all kinds of fun stuff. By the way, if you're ever at a bar and really don't want to drink, ask the bartender for their personal twist on a soda. Just like, I just want like a non-alcoholic. Just give me a fun soda. And it'll probably be like soda with a spritz of cranberry juice in it or something like that, you know? That's what I imagine. A year is fine, 6 months is better. I was a cook. Okay. Smuggy stream when? What do you want from a smuggy stream? What are you asking for? We grow fresh basil and mint in our flower pot. Our basil and mint is packed with flavor. Ooh, I bet. I bought a mint plant recently, and then it turned out it had aphids, and I was so mad that I just let it die instead of trying to save it. What do you want from a smuggy stream? Trying to elicit sexual content from me? I really just, I think I was telling you guys this a week or so ago. Like, I just have not been feeling very smuggy lately. Just not feeling very smuggy. Oh no, I used to ask bartenders to make me something they like until I became a regular at a goth cocktail bar. They started to like me and then started to absolutely fuck me up with insane drinks. Oh no. I stole the smuggy when I got on tea, apparently. Smoking stream? Nope, we don't do smoking streams here in Kansas. Nope. Ooh, we're probably gonna get to 69 likes today. At some point, I think that we have the capacity to get to 69 likes. Do I need to switch the donation goal to $69 donation? Because I need money. I'm gonna move across the country in a year. By the way, word of caution to people who drink at bars. Even bartenders are unfortunately fishy at times, so never take your eye off your drink even if the bartender is the one making it. That's a very good point. A smuggy, okay. Oh, good grief. Should we do this reaction to Vowsh? I already gave you my only $5. Noah is doing their part. Oh, yeah, there are, Eric in the YouTube chat says, there are definitely clubs I don't go to because the owner is known to SA and drug people. Yeah, Vowsh. Cancelled again. Get him out of here. Alright, later. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to respond to the whole concept of does patriarchy harm men? And then, like, the broader conversation of, like, do those structures of bigotry and privilege actually materially benefit the dominant group within those structures? So I just thought that it would be an interesting bouncing off point, and we can do it through the medium of reacting to Vowsh. Vouch did what now? Well, he just said that, like, patriarchy hurts men and women. And people got mad on Twitter, essentially. Vouch is... Man, I can't imagine having 7,000 people in here. I feel like having a couple hundred, it starts to get a little bit out of control. And I've never even had a couple hundred. I think the most I've ever had is like maybe 110, 117 in here. Patriarchy harms men, but it also harms non-men worse, so it's weird to center men. There's my reaction. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I struggle a little bit with this whole centering men thing. It's like, can we occasionally have conversations that discuss... Because I think that Vash's ultimate point is that, if you market patriarchy as something that is benefiting men, and, like, that's the narrative that they're countering, is like, culturally we have this idea that men are, because they're privileged in patriarchy, that means that it's good for them, which means that it's hard to convince some men that they should be against patriarchy because they're like, well, why? I'm gonna lose my benefits. But it's more like, men are being oppressed a little bit and women are being oppressed a lot, and the gap between those two levels of oppression is considered privilege for men. Yeah. Didn't he tweet that like a week ago? I don't know. Maybe he did tweet it like a week ago. He posted it like a day ago on Twitter, or sorry, on YouTube. Ooh, I've inherited 12 hectares from my grandmother, and it's a great feeling of building and doing stuff on your own land. It really is, like, something that I'm truly passionate about, and I know that I'm gonna try to make it happen as much as I can. Vash's streams are the holding place for re-radicalizing Nazis. For re-radicalizing Nazis. If this is the tweet I saw on 196, then IMHO, good point, horrible delivery. Yeah, I'm sure that we'll see it exactly. Feminazi stole my ice cream. I've been eating too much ice cream lately. It's so yummy. It's so hard to avoid eating delicious foods sometimes. He wants more men to learn not to act like Ken, and instead learn that they are Kenuff. They are Kenuff. I definitely would say the way some men are oppressed can be overlooked in these conversations, like how disabled men are often treated. I rarely see talked about. Yeah, and, like, certain, like, men who are also people of color are gonna have not the same structural advantages as, like, cis, straight, white males. Like, but it's, again, not to say that even if you are, quote, the dominant group, if you're still in a lower class, then you're still being harmed, and you are still being harmed, like, by those same influences that are supposedly granting you benefit. Like, when people say, oh, non-men are harmed more than patriarchy, I think sometimes what you're trying to invoke is, like, trans women, and that, like, trans women are policed in a way that, makes their socialization rather unique. And, like, yeah, the way that they internalize things is unique, but again, that, like, the insinuation that if you have long hair, then you're gay, or, if you act a certain way, then you just might as well be a girl. Like, all cis boys grow up with those pressures. All cis boys grow up with a tendency to emotionally repress because they're taught not to express their emotions. So, like, it's a thing where, and I agree with his general position of, like, it's not good to, yeah, like, if you don't acknowledge the ways in which patriarchy harms men, then people who have that idea that patriarchy is good for men are going to be invested in maintaining it because they want to be benefited, not realizing the ways in which they're being harmed. Anyway, I guess we might as well go ahead and start responding to this thing, because it's open in my... I have it open on my tabs. My tabs are open. Oh, we're so close to 69 likes. We might even be there already, but it's a little bit delayed for me. There's 68 right now, according to my screen. Let's do it. Let's do Vowsh. Yeah, women will never be free until men are. Emma Goldman, communist revolutionary. Yeah, Emma Goldman. I've heard good things. Something people need to remember about Vowsh is that he is trying to find a way to speak directly to men to help change their minds. And the best way to change men's minds is to sometimes make it sound like he's literally saying things in the worst way possible, because that's how men are going to hear it best. We got to 69. Yes, thank you. It's kind of like when we watched a Jubilee episode with Buck Angel on it, and Buck Angel has a tendency to say, like, I was born a woman and now I'm a man. And I'm like, I understand why he speaks that way, because he is in this world where he's doing advocacy with cis people who don't know anything. And so it makes sense. We might not think that that's, like, the perfect way to talk about it. We might prefer that he say, I was assigned female at birth, but all those extra words are frankly going to confuse a lot of people who are not familiar with the subject matter. So I don't think it's like the end of the world for Buck Angel to say, I was a woman, or I was born a woman, and now I'm living as a man, or however it is that he chooses to say it. I think a lot of the things about what he says are problematic. That's not one of them. I think that it's okay to use the rhetorical style that is going to be effective in that situation. So yeah, if you're arguing with dipshit transphobes, like, you're going to get on a certain level with them. Or if you're Vowsh and you're trying to de-radicalize men from hating women and being weird incels, like, then yeah, he's going to speak to them in a certain way that he's hoping to reach them. The content is not for you if you're woke scolding him. Literally, that's not it. Like, you are not the person he's making that content for. People need to be met where they're at, like, in their process. And scolding them is going to be highly ineffective. I think it's just a pancakes and waffles situation born out of not wanting to see the point that patriarchy is bad for men for the sake of saying women have it worse. Maybe. Like, I do think that some people are invested in their victimhood for sure. Like, so there are going to be folks who are like, I can't believe you would talk about men in this discussion. And it's like, there needs to be some place for them to talk about it. And, like, they're creating their own spaces. And isn't that exactly what you would want to happen? Like, a masculine man is creating a community where he can attempt to be like, hey, stop being so weird. Stop being sexually creepy in these women's DMs. like coming from a place of experience on some of those things. Here's how I've grown. Here's how you can express masculinity in a way that is not harmful to people around you. You know, somebody's got to do it. Like a mop and a broom, no one wants a thankless job. It's also important to know I am not a fan per se. I think that he has problems. This just wasn't necessarily one of them. Oh yeah, fair enough. You know, it's whatever. I don't expect people to have, like, oh, I like every single one of his takes. Like, yeah, Vowsh has had some fucking idiotic takes before, but overall I still end up, like, agreeing with him. So, let's see if my volumes are good. How are my volumes doing? Hello, I think I need to turn this up. It's gonna be really loud in my ears.
Canceled on Twitter again? I know, it's crazy.
Okay, are you loud? I think that's probably loud enough, right? Cool. Hey, 69 viewers. Ooh. Can we get to 100 likes today, maybe? We've reached 75. Normally, we don't get this high. It's gonna be good. Volume sounds good. Okay, good. Yeah, let's do it.
Leftists need to swallow the hard pill of accepting that men benefit from patriarchy just like white people benefit from white supremacy, and thus there will always be major pushback to any meaningful feminist outlook, whether or not you try to coddle us. And then I responded, I really don't think the average man or white person benefits from patriarchy and white supremacy, and it's extremely counterproductive to say so. They perceive themselves to benefit from it. But the social consequences of these systems of oppression hurt everyone. I don't think white people or men would be in any way harmed if we did away with sexism or racism, and the myth that they would is spread aggressively by demagogues who want to keep those groups anxious of social progress. Like, think about trans people. Cis people, quote-unquote, benefit from not being subjected to the shit trans people are subjected to, but no cis person would be hurt by broadly better treatment of trans people, and many gender nonconforming cis people would probably also get treated better as a consequence.
Yeah, so I know that people have been, like, annoyed in the past by folks who are bringing up that, yeah, so the group of people who are going to be harmed the most by anti-trans bathroom bills are going to be cisgender women who happen to look kind of masculine, who are, like, over a certain age, or, I don't know, like, if you're during menopause, or if you're black, because black women are often masculinized in culture. So, yes, cisgender people are going to be harmed by transphobic laws. You know, like, just because you are cis doesn't mean you aren't going to be affected by those things. And, like, again, men are harmed in certain ways as well. I'm sure he's going to go further into it. I think if you have a sub, then you can change your name, but I can also change it for you, so perhaps ping me later. They benefit from it, but also are harmed by it, not either or. That are a misunderstanding. When are we getting the cunt button? We're not getting a cunt button, we're getting a pussy button, and I just need to go into my DMs and find it.
For this, I am trending 1 million views,
1 million
getting
views,
dunked
true.
on by quote tweets with like tens of thousands of likes. One of the people who was really angry at you ended up tacitly agreeing with you. Everyone agrees. If anyone disagrees with this, I genuinely question like their sincerity in being a progressive. The counterpoint to what I said was that it was admitting you agree with like sexists when they say feminism hurts men. Look, if you have two states of being,
That's a good point.
inequality and equality, my position is that equality is universally liberating. There are really negative social consequences to inequality. Like, you can take a look at this. The evidence of it is pretty clear all about the place. Ask yourself, on average, are men happier in more patriarchal countries than they are in less patriarchal countries?
That's an interesting question.
There's obviously a lot of conflating factors here, but do you see a trend where in more sexist societies, men are happier and there's more well-being and blah, blah, blah? What about racism? Are societies that have, on average, a greater degree of sort of racial segregation or bias, does that tend to lead to, like, better, like, well-being in the dominant population? Generally, no, I don't think so. I think that...
Yeah, I haven't actually looked at any statistics on that, but that is a really interesting thing that I wouldn't have necessarily considered. You know, if you're trying to gauge whether society, like whether a patriarchal society harms or benefits men, then like look at which societies are more or less patriarchal, and then look at men's relative satisfaction, I guess. Yeah, it's really interesting though. Yes, in a feminist society, men can have strong mommies turn them into sugar babies. Feminism. That's what we're going for.
The best way to take a look at this is anytime you get rid of segregation or apartheid, you usually see a general increase in the standard of living. Like, I mean, in America, we had slavery in the South and a lot of racism in the North, but not slavery, you know, technically. And I guess the implication would be that like white people must have necessarily been better off in the South than in the North because of the extractive process of the labor they were taking from black people.
But not every white person owned slaves, so not all white people were benefiting from slavery in that way. I guess, like, yeah, like, it's like the idea is hinged upon that there are no oppressed or suffering white folks in the area, almost. Do straight men not desire strong mommies to take care of them? Don't they? Do they not? My only issue with this appeal of his is he's referring to data that exists, but in such a way that an incurious person can gesture to the good old days to try to circumvent his point. Why? Because, like, relative happiness, like, there was, like, you could, like, I don't know, could you say that, like, patriarchal society was more intense 50 years ago? And then, like, track relative happiness between now and then? I don't know. Anyway.
Were kept as slaves. But that's obviously not true, right? In fact, I think you could make the opposite argument. Not only was that not the case, but also the broader social consequences of slavery, I think, made life worse for white people in the South in two major ways. One, I just on a purely, I guess, like psychological level, I'm on the master slave dynamic shit with this. In this case, literally, okay? I think it's psychologically harmful for people in a dominant social position to see themselves reflected in the eyes of the people they dominate. I don't think that's good for you. I don't. It makes you paranoid. Seriously, like, think about it. White people
That's such an
literally
point.
owned black people in the South, and they still fell asleep every night having feverish nightmares about them being racially cuckolded by their slaves. Like, if anything, the evidence we have is that racism in a population tends to make them extremely anxious. You know, there's like an ennui there. There's like an underlying alienation that causes them great distress, which causes them again then to like reify the oppression.
That's fascinating. I have never heard that point made before, I don't think. Like, but that's interesting that the psychological state of being of the slave owner is kind of fundamentally paranoid. Like, because you do on some level, like, you're balancing very carefully trying to control a population of people who don't want to be in the situation that they're in. And, like, honestly, I wonder if that's where a lot of the more extreme brutality came from, is that anxiety of needing to maintain control, and so trying to take things to an extreme of fear to maintain that control. IMO, a big problem is people seeing the world as a zero-sum competition, so you can only be better off at the expense of often marginalized others. True. Inciting fear in dominant classes is like 95% of the Republican platform. Fucking true. Man.
I don't think that like works out to their benefit, you know? It just doesn't seem to. You can see this in the United States today because the most racist populations in the United States don't live around other races. They live in racial enclaves. They're like white rural people or whatever. Like the populations that tend to make most of their decisions based on racial anxiety are the ones who encounter other races the least, and in many cases are quite dispossessed themselves. Another example of how racism hurt white people in the South. White people too. This is, and again, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, everything has to be about white people. Obviously, slavery hurt black people. idiots. There were a lot of people on Twitter who assumed like that's the direction a lot of
That's a
people
good
on Twitter.
point. Like, it's like, okay, yeah, it's a given that slavery harmed black people. Do you like, yes, I will acknowledge it. Here are some specific ways in which the like construct of slavery was not beneficial to black or to white folks, like in ways in which it actually tangentially uh tangibly made their lives worse. Like people bringing up like, oh, but slavery was bad for black people. Like, duh, duh. Thank you for that revolutionary point. We know. Like, okay, it's not an either or thing. I don't think that it's being presented as an either or thing. I think that the problem is that when you try to talk about the complexities of like even the modern construct of whiteness, and I'm not talking about like slavery specifically, the modern construct of whiteness has deprived white people of like a rich family and cultural history. Like as a white person, my culture is fucking scalloped potatoes and barbecue on the 4th of July. Like, and Marvel movies, you know? I have no idea where my family came from. That's why, that's part of why those fucking 23andMe's are so popular, I think, is like, for people of color, they've been physically displaced. And so for them, finding out where they're from is a matter of, well, here's where my ancestors were stolen from. For white people, it's because like the way that the United States government constructed whiteness and used it as a means by which to access more rights, effectively more privileges, it did flatten and erase a lot of culture. Like I have no idea where my family came from, and I'm not going to take one of those weird genetics things. Yeah. So, but the problem is, if you're trying to talk about that, like here's how I, as a white person, can recognize that racism has harmed me. Like it has deprived me and my whole family of a cultural identity beyond whiteness. This is how you end up with white supremacy. It's how you end up with white power bullshit, is because that's all people think that their culture is. They don't know where they were from. They don't know like their family's traditions from Poland, or like the recipes that their Italian great great grandmother used to make. They have no idea. They're disconnected from their histories. And it's hard to talk about without people going like, "Oh my god, you're centering yourself." Like, okay, I think it's better for me as a white person to recognize the ways in which the construct of whiteness and of racism harms me, because frankly, that makes it more likely that I'm going to oppose it. And I do oppose racism on the grounds that it harms black people. And so I'm not trying to come up with extraneous reasons myself. But there's going to be white people out there who genuinely think that racism is 100% a benefit to them, who haven't thought about, like, why is it that I don't know when my family came over to this country? Like, why is it that I don't know my cultural history? Or like any of these other examples, I suppose. That's just the one that I tend to go with. But yeah, I don't know. But so the point is that, like, yes, America has a lot of unique culture, but I don't have a family history and like a genealogy and like a long string of tradition in the way that folks who didn't go through like the colonialism of whiteness. Or like if you're from Europe, it's probably easier for you to go, yeah, well, I'm from this country and it's relatively small and all my family have been from here for multiple generations, and you've got your local like culture. Yeah, America has a lot of unique culture. It's just really superficial, and it's based in consumerism rather than being based in family tradition or history or like oral tradition. Centering yourself is an important part of being mindful. True. I can kind of see how someone might see this as a mirror to something like, here's how black people benefited from slavery in a way. Um Like there's two sides to both coins, I guess, is what the suggestion is. If anyone wants to trace their family for free, findagrave.com is great, and obituaries do wonders. Interesting. I've never looked into that. True, among progressives, it's a given, but in our overall political discourse, I guess it's true that it's not a given that the person you're talking to will acknowledge that slavery was bad for black people. Okay, anyway, let's keep going.
Twitter went like, wow, you think white supremacy hurt white people? Well, what about black people? Yeah, no shit. You know, it's if people are determined to hate you, it's Twitter. Like and if I essay posted, like, what is that going to do? They're not going to read it. They're just going to like quote tweet it and go like, wow, 5 million words to say you hate black people. So like that. But another example of how this came back around to hurt white people was that, guys, I don't know if you noticed, but back around the time the Civil War breakout, the South was a little bit materially underdeveloped. As it turns out, as efficient as slavery is in terms of cost saving, it's not a good way of facilitating, modern, at least modern for the time, economic and industrial development. And that was because the social systems in the sort of like hierarchy and structures and metastructures in the South were so built around maintaining white supremacy that they were unwilling to make the kinds of social and industrial changes that modernizing societies needed to, because those would have pulled away from the fabric of their system. They were more interested in preserving.
I haven't looked into this personally. I'm assuming that he's basing this on some reading that he's done, but he's basically suggesting that because of an attachment to the social order of slavery, folks who were in charge of the industries themselves were resistant to what I assume would be technological advancement. Like there were probably things that were being invented to make the various slave labor, so let's say farming, I guess, is one of the primary ones, like making farm labor more efficient, but their attachment to the social order of maintaining slavery is like, we can't do something to give these slaves less work because then they'll have less work. We don't want them getting any ideas in their free time. Drought Dealer, thank you so much. Did you mean to send 2 tier 1 subs? Because I have received 2 notifications. Hopefully that didn't bug out. I can always give you a... Yeah, it did go through twice on my end. So I'll double check that, and I can refund one of them. Let me write that down. Write myself a note down. Trout Dealer. Yeah, that's weird. I guess have a tier 2 then? Yeah, fair enough. Accidental, but still appreciated. Enjoy your dicks. Thank you, thank you. Part of the problem with slavery in America was that the cotton gin made slavery even more profitable. It's not like technological advancement was all bad for slavery. Sure, yeah, I mean, yeah. They'll still find some job for you to do. They'll come up with something. I think there's some fairness in looking out for someone invoking, quote, white man's burden, even if that's clearly not what this is. Sure, I just think that it's really, Vowsh is in that unfortunate position where people just interpret whatever he's saying in the worst way possible. And people are already primed to believe negative things about him, so it's tricky. Honestly, at this point, I feel like he must feel so liberated to just say whatever he wants, because he knows at this point that, like, if people hate him, then they're just going to hate him, and it doesn't matter if he tries to rehabilitate his image, so he might as well just lean into saying risque things. I don't know. It tickles me.
White supremacy than they were in the well-being of the southern states, which is evidenced by the fact that they went to war with the Union. That is how irrational slavery made southern whites. They thought, damn, we are so irrationally committed to defending slavery that we will secede and war with our larger, more populous, more industrially developed United States. It was not in their material interest, but racism convinced them that it was. Another great example.
That's a really good point, too. Like, they thought that it was a good idea to go to war with the North. You say that, but he's way more chill than he used to be. Okay, fair enough. I don't watch Vowsh regularly anymore. I watched him a lot in like 2020, but it's been a minute. I still really appreciate him. It's just not what I do with my free time. This is not entertaining for me. It's like not positive for me to watch other people's political content most of the time. But again, I like this take.
Why so many times have business owners and politicians been successful in convincing poor white people that the real threat to their paycheck isn't their bosses, but rather Mexicans or Chinese,
True.
you know, or Italians or Irish or Mexicans again? How many times has that happened? Again, it is in the material interest of the white working class to adopt economically populist positions, but they're convinced instead through racism that the real thing they have to fear is brown people who have even less than they do. I think these are excellent examples of how the average white person is hurt by racism. Now, I say average because, of course, racism is in this case being used as a legitimizing mechanism for a pre-existing hierarchy. And there are people at the top of that hierarchy who benefit enormously from using these systems to keep people on their side, right? But that isn't, first of all, even if that makes them very wealthy, I think you can take a look at like the billionaires of today, and it's pretty clear that having a bunch of money and power doesn't actually make you happy. I know that's
Elon
kind
Musk.
of like an esoteric take, but there's a reason why people joke about taking the money away from billionaires for their own good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's to their benefit. Like, I think that I think that systems tend to defend systems. Like, the purpose of any
God, that's
system is
true.
to reproduce itself. So naturally,
Okay, so Vowsh anarchist arc? Is that... Listen, you just have to apply that same logic to states. Like, he just said systems only exist, like, to perpetuate themselves, or systems primarily exist to perpetuate themselves. And he's saying this about racism. He's like, the main purpose of racism is to propagate more racism, is effectively the point that he's making. But yeah, no, that's why I don't like states anymore. Remember when Vowsh openly called himself an anarchist? Did he? I don't know. I like this guy. He gives very social democratic vibes to me. I don't know what his particular prerogative is at this time. I don't know, but it's fine. I don't think that lefties need to have specific labels in order to talk about our ideas. I think we should prioritize talking about our ideas rather than like being stuck on the labels, frankly.
no matter what system you arrive at, pharaohs, kings, liberal democracy, fascism, the first priority of that system is to make itself permanent to the best that it can. That doesn't necessarily mean it's better for people, you know. Stable systems are not necessarily ones in which people are well off. A good example of this would be like dictatorships, you know. Dictatorships, if handled well, absent outside threats, are capable of being very stable systems. Not all dictatorships are fascist, after all. Fascism is deliberately irrational. But you can have a rational dictator. Totally possible.
True.
Most societies throughout history have effectively been dictatorships, or at least their era's version of one. I mean,
it's true. Like, I've been watching the Crash Course World History series recently, and frankly, most governments through most time have been some kind of dictatorship or authoritarianism. He stopped after more academic anarchists gave him shit for it. I don't know anything about like academic anarchism, which is like the only reason why I hesitate to fully embrace the label. But I still I'd say casually I count as an anarchist. Everybody hates on every lefty label, so whatever. Yeah, like in principle, I think that states are not good. So I don't know what exactly the solutions are. And I've had people bitch about the fact that I'm saying I think that you should vote for Biden as a harm reduction and go like, LOL, yeah, anarchist says to vote. Like, yeah, I still have to live here. Like, I still live here. It's like when people go like, you're criticizing capitalism, yet you have an iPhone. Like, yeah, I have to live here. I'm sorry. Also, the idea of a phone is not necessarily like tied to capitalism. It's that capitalism is the mode of production. If you want to do a segi on billionaires, I put a thing in Streamrex about Elon losing $56 billion. I heard about this. I heard.
Monarchy, emperor, whatever. You know, not much in the way of democracy the further back you go in time. And hell, even today. But like that doesn't necessarily, like the stability doesn't necessarily mean people are happier, right? I really take issue with this because on one hand, people need to understand the difference between being privileged within a system and benefiting from the existence of that system.
Hmm.
Men inarguably benefit from their position in a patriarchal system over women. That's a privilege within the system. But that doesn't mean they benefit relative to equality, right? So I
Hmm.
don't like saying men benefit from patriarchy because if the absence of patriarchy would make men better off, which I hope you believe, because otherwise you are literally agreeing with the people saying that feminism hurts men. That is the position you're taking if you disagree with that. Like, unambiguously, if you disagree with what I'm saying here, then when racists say anti racism means anti white, you agree with them. And
Hmm.
when misogynists say feminism wants to hurt men, you agree with them. And I hope you don't. So, you know, I assume this was like a basic, a basic position. I was arguing about this for like ages. I actually, because
I just find nothing objectionable about this take. I mean, people on Twitter are gonna do the thing that they're gonna do on Twitter, which is get annoyed at pretty much anything. But yeah, Voosh claims to be a socialist, although we're all only as far left as sock dems until after a lot of work is done. I think there's a difference between. I think that my political label should be like I feel like the label that I want to use that is most accurate is the one that defines what I think should be happening. You know, like obviously, even though I think that like the US government is not the best version of a government, and maybe even the idea of a government itself is not the right way. Like the way that we construct the ideas of governments now is probably not the right way to go for maximizing human potential. Like just because it's stable, like he's saying, just because the United States is relatively stable in terms of the economy and all this doesn't mean that people are doing well in the empire. So, yeah, I don't know. I just like I still have to participate in this society and like I'm not passionately saying vote for Biden. I'm not saying I want to be participating in this system. Like I don't want to be participating in this system. I just am. So it's like my actions, you could call it sockdem because like I am only able to operate within the parameters of the society that I exist in, and sockdem is as far left as they'll let you be practically. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't think that I should have to live out my principles in order to be able to say, yeah, I'm an anarchist. Although I do want to be able to live out those principles, it would be great. Oh, Morgan, you apparently didn't hear any of the accusations against Biden before he got elected. There are allegations against Biden too. You can't just go, oh, he's not a rapist, therefore he's better. But also, like, why is the bar on the floor? He's not a. Okay, he's allegedly not a rapist, except that there were allegations against him. But he is, like, actively genocidal, so I don't know. I live in Kansas, so I don't have to vote for Biden, so I'm not going to. Ooh, 15 likes away from getting to 100. Gorgeous. Biden stole my left sock from the dryer. Thanks, Biden.
I was on, I was traveling, so I had time on my phone. I was dozens and dozens of messages. People hate me for this. I don't want to be one of those guys who just goes through like a collage of tweets disagreeing with me. Some of these people even are otherwise reasonable people. I think a lot of people just bristle at the idea of language which appears to make men the victims of patriarchy in kind of like a self-centered, like, oh, well, what about the men sort of way. But obviously, the argument isn't that they're doing the worst off. The argument is that they would benefit from the removal of these systems.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that racial equality would hurt white people at all. I think there are some niche cases where there really is like a zero-sum game dynamic, and better treatment of minorities would like hurt people who have been monopolizing that power. But here, let me point to a tweet here. Fun fact: the last time I went job hunting in video
There's enough
games, I
victimhood to
sent
go
out
around here. We can share. True.
about 400 resumes, 200 with my name as Olivia and 200 with my dead name. Identical resume. Nearly half using my dead name got callbacks. I got about 20 interviews from that bout. I got 0 as Olivia. So this person is saying that cis people do benefit from trans misogyny because cis people are more... Oh, no, sorry, this wouldn't be a trans thing. This would be a gender thing, right? Olivia versus their dead name. That men benefit more from patriarchy on account of them being more likely to get a callback. That's certainly true. However, let's run through a couple of examples. First of all, I would argue that there is a broader harm to society through that bias. After all, what we're essentially looking at is a anti-woke diversity, equity, and inclusion program, right? If people are hiring men when women are better candidates for being hired, especially because this person is a trans woman and they are looking for a job in video games, and as I understand it, trans women have the racial stat bonus to video game creation.
True.
Not sure how that works, but I've noticed this pattern, many such cases.
They have the racial stat
It seems
bonus.
like this is an irrational selective preference that will actually represent itself in worse products for the consumer. I know that sounds
That's really an interesting point as well, that like if you keep selecting for men over women in these industries that are very male centric, then if those women are genuinely more qualified, and he's joking that trans women are uniquely qualified to make video games, then what the result is across the whole industry, worse outcomes for the product. I'm curious how this plays out in other instances, but I'm not going to go into any of those details right now. It's the programmer socks. It's just that men are too scared to wear them. Oh, the programmer socks. That's where it actually comes in. Remember, even if you hate Biden, you can be involved politically anyways. Abortion protection falls on the states now, and you can vote for that. I swear to God, you got to vote. Yeah, vote locally as much as you can. There's a Democrat governor in Kansas, and we have a veto-proof supermajority, but you could potentially vote out one of those Congress people, and you can make sure that the Democratic governor stays there. That would be cool. Maybe I'm just a lib cuck, but why would I want to get a job based on my potential employer's racism slash sexism? Wouldn't I want to actually earn the position? Yeah, like, so even as a white person or as a man who's getting more callbacks, why would you want to be handed stuff that you didn't earn as well? Like, I feel like that's bad for people. They become entitled and spoiled, or it undermines your sense of confidence and achievement because you're being given things that you didn't earn. Like, it's probably complex psychosocial phenomenon, really. Like, it's so many different examples of things that you could look at that are, okay, maybe it could be a benefit in this situation, but I could also see it being a harm. It's kind of like how I'm now arguing against the existence of women's sports. I think all sports should be desegregated, because I think that the fact that you put women in their separate category makes them perform worse. Like, psychologically, if you tell someone that they're going to do worse, they will perform worse. So I think that just like the simple fact of women's sports makes them underperform. But it's hard to say. It's like complex psychosocial interactions. I won't say society regards me more highly after transition, but there are patriarchy-imposed man problems I don't have anymore. Yeah, you're not required to perform all day in that way. You are kind of required to perform femininity, but if it's more comfortable for you, then maybe it feels less like pressure and more like, okay, well, I was going to do this anyway. Yeah, I think often white folks or men or whoever, like, they're often unaware of the benefit that they're receiving. They don't know how many women applied to the job and didn't even get a call back.
kind of abstract, but think about it. How many amazing commercial or administrative or whatever else opportunities were missed out on because mediocre whites were put in charge rather than competent black people.
No.
Right? So I would say that there is a broader social harm to everyone. See, I'm not looking for a job in video games, right? But I play them, and I don't want people only getting jobs because they have male names. So I think that's an example, even there, of how something that seems to exclusively hurt women actually comes back around and hurts everyone. I think that's one example. Second example is, and here's a question for you guys. During the Jim Crow era, black people couldn't get a lot of jobs that white people could get. I know, this is the first time you're hearing this.
Mhm.
But following the passing of the Civil Rights Act and, all the changes that followed, black people started to be able to get more jobs that were previously held only by white people. Now, the question is, did this hurt white people? I don't think it did, guys. I don't think it did. I think the reason it didn't is because the availability of jobs isn't this like permanent, unchanging, zero-sum game kind of dynamic. It's a flexible metric in a market that's always changing, you know? The implication of this would be, I feel, that if, lives of men would get worse if women are allowed to work. Is that true? By the way, like, did the life...
Yeah, that's an interesting factoid, or like an interesting way to present that. Did men as a class get hurt when women entered the workforce? I don't know that that's the case. What's up, Mersh? Anti-feminists will try and point to aspects of patriarchy that hurt men, but will avoid the fact that those aspects are because of patriarchy. Yeah, Vowsh is saying that the solution to those aspects is for as many people as possible to hop on feminism and get rid of patriarchy, but people are just assuming or dishonestly implying that he's only saying those aspects are real because he's an anti-feminist. No, this is a feminist read. Like, the entire point of third wave feminism, I thought, was to be like more about gender equality and focusing on men's struggles within patriarchy and trying to join forces with men, as opposed to like second wave feminism, which was marked primarily in my mind by political lesbianism. So yeah, but no, it's like a classic third wave feminist take that patriarchy also hurts men. That like this entire feminist movement of men should be able to cry and like we shouldn't body shame men for being fat or for having small penises or whatever. Those are all based in third wave feminism, and they're based in the idea that patriarchy harms men. So you would really have to be trying hard, I think, to try to portray Vowsh as anti-feminist in this, because it's... Yeah, anyway.
Life of the average man get worse as a consequence of women being able to work as well? I don't like the implication of this. I guess the implication of this to me that bothers me is the argument from a lot of people seems to be that it is actually in the rational self-interest of men and white people and cis people or whatever else to be bigoted. That the
No, I understood you, Zoomy dear. Sorry, I riffed on your comment and was agreeing with you.
Argument from a lot of people on the left seems to be basically like, it might be evil, but white people are correctly acting in their rational self-interest by doing racism, Jim Crow, slavery, whatever else, or that men in, like, I don't know, Iran or Saudi Arabia, like, essentially the argument then would be that men in Iran, the morality police, are acting in their rational self-interest by restricting the rights of women, or likewise in Saudi Arabia. When Saudi Arabian men gave women the right to drive on their own, that was like an irrational decision from the perspective of their well-being. And the problem that I have with this, in addition to the fact that it's wrong and it's empirically wrong, like it's demonstrably wrong in so many different ways, in so many different points in history, in every country that we ever had any sociological data from, the idea that equality hurts the dominant class, you know, I just don't believe that bullshit. But ultimately, this is the logic of the white nationalist, right? The white nationalist. So most white nationalists are just hateful. But if you find a smart one, and you'll have to look for a while, but eventually you might, you will get an explanation for why they believe what they believe. And what they believe is that different ethnicities or races have just innately or otherwise different interests. There are white nationalists who claim to not believe in racial supremacy. They're lying, of course, but let's take that position for granted for a moment, because I think that we can be as charitable as we want and still destroy the argument, you know? Let's say, for example, that a white nationalist does not believe in any innate differences between any races. They argue then that due to cultural differences, of which there are, of course, there are cultural differences all across the world, different racial or ethnic groups will always have different innate interests, sometimes conflicting ones. There are a finite number of resources, land, whatever else. And as a consequence of that, the white nationalist only wants to get on their team's side before the other teams destroy them. See, their argument is that white nationalism isn't like a white specific movement. It's just an acknowledgement of the inherent racial war that's always been going on, and that to ignore it is just to ignore a fact of reality.
Yeah, I think that a lot of racists do cling on to that whole, oh, it's such an obvious biological difference. Like, obviously, we're in competition for similar resources. Like, they treat other races almost the same way that you would treat other species. You know, like, there's a reason why there aren't any of the other species similar to us anymore. Like, we killed all of them, you know? But I don't know. It's not a zero. It's like, yeah, it's not a zero-sum game. It almost never is. Hegel talks about how bigotry harms the psychology of racists in the master-slave dynamic. You can't base your ego on unimportant characteristics and expect to be happy without cognitive dissonance, right? Like, yeah, my whole ego is based on the fact that I'm a certain skin color or whatever. Yep. Segregation, it's such a weird thing.
Always in the self-interest of a race to defend their race first, right? So naturally, as a product of that, they're not like taking a political position outside an acknowledgement of reality. That's the position, it seems, that a lot of these Twitter leftists are taking from the other side, right? They're essentially saying, yeah, no, men and white people and what have you, they're hurt by equality. The only difference is, from the perspective of the Twitter leftist that I've been arguing with here, you know, the broad Twitter leftist, the archetype of the Twitter leftist, they're saying that this process is good, actually. They're essentially adopting the logic of the white nationalists, but taken from the other moral perspective, that there is always this innate conflict. It is always, you know, a zero-sum game. They're just fighting over, like, what they consider to be an equitable distribution of that limited power and social prestige. Everyone understand what I'm talking about here? There are examples
of... definitely not a view that is trying to abolish hierarchy. What's up, Shade? Welcome in. Yeah, we're talking about, like, do white people benefit from white supremacy, actually? Or are they just slightly less harmed than people of color? And similar with gender depression and stuff like that. You know, like, is the dominant group actually benefiting, or are they just harmed less, or harmed in different ways? Yawning is hard.
Stuff like this all throughout history, by the way. And you can ask yourself, it's pretty clear, right? Tell me, did the average German benefit from the Holocaust? I mean, that's pretty much the most extreme possible example of ethnic, racial, or national preferentiality. I mean, did their lives improve as a product of this? Did they all, like, throw their arms up in the air and go, like, yay, more jobs available for us, or whatever? You know, as a consequence of slavery, every racist white man now has a BBC fetish. Like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I think that a lot of leftists just really, this sounds kind of like trite, but I think a lot of leftists are really, really, really attached to the aesthetic of saying stuff like, man, white people. You know, you've been comfortable for so long. Who gives a shit how you feel now? Which is juvenile and counterproductive, obviously. Like, that's, you know, that's not really like theory or being like radical or whatever. It's just being sort of emotional. I don't think that really gets you anywhere. And I think it's deeply counterproductive, by the way, to like suggest that white people are correct if they're acting in their own self-interest to oppose anti-racism. You know, you're probably not doing black people any favors by doing that. I don't think on average women benefit from the broad perception that feminism hurts men. So I don't know why you would promote that, especially.
Honestly, I kind of feel like that's what the Barbie movie was actually about. Like, we had the Barbie movie recently. I just finally fucking got around to watching it. And it has occurred to me that, like, you know, there was all this talk about the awards show and how Ryan Gosling got an award, but Margot Robbie didn't. And it's like, yeah, Ken is a fairly central part of the movie, and he has like more, I think, more of a character arc in some ways than the character Barbie did. But uh, it's ultimately a movie, I think, trying to, on a fundamental level, I think that Barbie is trying to assuage the paranoid male supremacist society that feminism is not about women's supremacy. Look at our movie. It starts out with female supremacy and it ends with equality. Therefore, feminism is about equality. And we just want to have things be as fair as it is for men. Like, I think that's part of why people are annoyed with it, because it is basically just, the whole thing is just good doing PR for feminism to make it seem less disruptive, I think. Was the Barbie movie about BBC fetish? Maybe. You have to watch it.
Especially since it's not true. I think lefties gave the game away to right-wing talking points. Well, I don't really think it's an adoption of right-wing talking points. I think it's more of an aesthetic thing, as always. I've criticized the left for this in the past, because it's true, but there's a big difference between saying, believing, and doing things that make the world a better place, and looking like you're a person who does that. And because ultimately people's beliefs are really, really governed by their desire to fit in, to be with an in crowd, to impress the people they respect, people have a tendency to like fall into these patterns where over and over and over again they'll repeat bad arguments or bad ideas. Look at the Starbucks boycott thing. This is still like huge, like lefty QAnon. There are still probably millions of left-leaning people in the Western world who think that Starbucks is funding genocide in Israel. And if you disagree, you get like harassed or doxxed or whatever.
Wasn't the problem about the owner of the company donating money to Israel? I don't know specifically, but I also already thought that there was boycott-ish activity toward Starbucks because of their constant union busting. I thought that that was one of the primary reasons.
It's insane. And I don't think that's because all these people are individually like aware and cognizant of the fact that they're lying or whatever. People are just on average really weak. They're weak and emotional. Unlike me, because I'm a man, of course. It's really unfortunate though when stuff like this kind of like backwashes into people's political arguments. It's very counterproductive. Like I've said this before, man, that the left makes itself sort of needlessly repellent to people who might otherwise be sympathetic to its ideals. But can you imagine how it must look to a sort of average onlooker to see a bunch of leftists passionately shaking their head and going, no, 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 you don't understand. White people do benefit from racism. It's like, wait, so the implication of that being what exactly? And bad optics, lol. Well, I mean, it is bad optics to essentially shout that it is in the interest of men to oppose feminism, but, you know. Starbucks boycott is bad. Guys, you don't have to drink at Starbucks if you want. I made this coffee myself. You can do whatever you want. But Starbucks doesn't operate in Israel, and they're not giving money to Israel. All Starbucks did...
I guess it's possible that the claim was spurious in the first place, because I do know that they don't operate in Israel. Lefties think Starbucks is funding Israel news to me. There was like an image going around at some point that was like, boycott all these different companies, and like I think people are still boycotting McDonald's, for example.
Was go after their union for making a pro-Palestine statement. Bad, sure, but a pretty far cry from Starbucks is funding genocide, you know? You can boycott. Wait, did you need this to let you know that Starbucks is an evil company? Haven't we been following their union busting efforts for years? Was this the line? It's just weird that the line would be over something this meaningless because it's like not real. If everyone decided after years and years of union busting that this specific, like going after the union for making a pro-Palestinian statement, that would be the line where they boycott. I mean, sure. It's just weird people are pretending that they're funding genocide. Isn't the U.S. using $1 trillion a year because of racism? In my opinion, so this is going to sound like a very like liberal take, but I do genuinely believe in it. Okay, the market is not very good at the efficient allocation of resources. It's also better than almost any other system we've seen. One of the reasons the market often fails in the allocation of resources is due to bigotry, right?
True.
People don't always make rational, self-interested decisions when it comes to investment, employment, whatever else, because they're bigots. You know, we saw a lot of this back during the civil rights movement, Jim Crow laws. It would have been in the commercial interest of businesses in the Deep South back during the 1950s and 40s to allow black people into their store, to patron them as regular,
because they would have been making money.
Irregular customers, but they didn't because social bias made it taboo for them to associate with black people. It's economically inefficient. So the elimination of racism would necessarily, at least in this specific instance, reduce the inefficiency in the market, which would mean a better and more robust economy. Certainly, there are plenty of things you can do with an economy that make line go up, but don't make people's lives better. But getting rid of racism, I think, would be one of those nice things that both makes line go up and also makes people's lives better. What would you...
I want to take a moment here to show a video that someone posted in the Discord that's relevant to the topic. Let's see if I can find it real quick. It's a video. Yes. Does it have to be over here? Whoa. Oops. Come back. Let's see.
White people, watch this video, and I'll be right back.
He published a book called Race, Tendencies, and Traits of the American Negro, in which he lays out all the numbers, and then he concludes that if we simply avoided allowing black people to have any access to health care, that within 2 or 3 generations, the whole race would die out, and that would solve the race problem in America. When Teddy Roosevelt, 1912, proposed a national health care system, people said no because black people will get it. When Franklin Roosevelt proposed a national health care system, it was the same thing. We don't want black people to get it. When Truman tried it in 1947, same thing. Don't want black people to get it. We have to figure out a way to keep black people from using Medicare. And the way that they came up with was to have a 20% a gap in Medicare, so that you had to pay 20% of your doctor's bill and your hospital bill, and that would discourage poor black people from showing up at the hospitals. Nearly 100% of the reason why the United States is the only country in the world that doesn't define healthcare as a right is because of racism. He published a book called Race, Tendencies, and Traits of the American Negro.
That's crazy. And she's going to keep talking in here for a second, but yeah, the idea that we don't have universal health care in the United States because people were specifically we don't want black people to get health care. That is apparently the historical reason why we don't have universal health care these days. Yeah, it's crazy.
How many times do I have to say this? Racism is a detriment to you white folks, poor white folks especially.
True.
Because of racism, you poor white folks can't even get good health care, because they thought if they could deny health care to black people that we would have been eradicated a long time ago. But hey, we still here, and they have not changed the rules. Mm-hmm. How crazy is that? Even with Social Security,
they haven't yet admitted that this is a losing strategy.
You have to pay 20% because of racism. We keep telling you, BIPOC keep telling you, black people keep telling you, it is not us that makes your life suck. Mm-hmm. It is those racist politicians and their racist legislation that they think that's going to harm us, but harms you at the same time. And they don't care if it harms you. They don't give a shit. And then you continue to vote against your own interest. All because a bunch of rich white people told y'all to hate black people because black people are doing stuff to you as a whole. And we're not, because we don't control shit. We don't control the healthcare system.
I love this point so much.
We don't control Social Security. We don't control your wages. We don't control shit. But they continue to tell you that it's us. So you turn your focus on us and harass the shit out of us for no fucking reason, when we have no power to affect your life as a whole community. Pay attention. Ending racism is not just beneficial to BIPOC. It's super beneficial to poor white folks and middle-class white folks.
Yeah. I don't control the railways or the flow of commerce. I genuinely that line fucked me up in the Barbie movie. It really got me. There were a lot of things in that movie that they didn't necessarily make me bust up and guffaw laughing, but there were a whole lot of moments where I was like, like just the unexpected oof laugh, you know? Um, Typical, are you being serious? I hope you're not. I'm often over on Tom Hartman's stream during the week in the chat room. Oh, cool. Oh, neat. Okay. Yeah, I hadn't heard of him before today. Yeah, white supremacy is so interested in hurting BIPOC that, yeah, it'll hurt anybody in the meantime. That's so funny. The Barbie movie was, I don't know why, but I wasn't expecting it to be funny. I knew that it was going to be some kind of feminist critique, but it was much funnier than I was expecting, and it was good. It was good.
You say to people comparing this to a capitalist class acting in its own interest and it being in their benefit to do so, one thing that you have to understand is that a class of people acting in their material interest is not the same thing as people in a group doing what makes them happy. It is in the material interest of the bourgeoisie to accumulate all the wealth in the world. But accumulating all the wealth in the world doesn't actually make them happy, you see? We're talking about a Marxist system of analysis. We're talking about resource distribution. But if you had a system which incentivized you to hoard endlessly, would being a Scrooge McDuck actually make you a happier person? And if not, is it...
Yeah, like the system is incentivizing you, just like these other systems that are creating separations, like even a system that incentivizes you to have a shit ton of money, like are people, like can we look at material outcomes of people who are super stingy? I am Kenneth. It's true, I am Kenneth. Tom Hartman, not a black person and not really serious, but kinda. I mean, the thing is typical that, like, it's the type of thing that she as a black woman has probably been saying, and unfortunately, sometimes black women need to go, hey, look, there's a white person who agrees with me. And, like, trans people have to go, hey, look, a cis person agrees with me. Sometimes, you know, like, one of the ways that women have learned to make it in the corporate world is to trick a man into thinking that her idea was his idea, right? Because he's more likely to get the thing rolling just because he's more likely to be taken seriously. So for her, she was, like, using, frankly, like, the whole video was over 3 minutes long, and less than 1/3 of it was the Tom talking about it. So she's like, hey, look, here's someone who you might actually respect saying this thing that I've been saying for a while. Pronouns.
Possible that the material interests of the bourgeoisie do not align perfectly with their human interest. See, this is what economy does. There are economic interests, but that doesn't necessarily mean it actually benefits people, right?
Fair enough.
There are things that might be to your economic
I guess that's
interest
the principle behind the idea that, like, money can't buy happiness. Where do the horses factor into patriarchy? The horse is just an extension of the man.
Like, that don't benefit you personally. If you want, you could, like, it is in your economic
I say when I'm watching a Vowsh video, I realize how funny that is.
to be on your grind set, you know? Why are you watching a live stream? You could be working, you could be like running Uber, you know, lifts, you know, right? But would that make you happier? Would that improve your life in any way by missing a Vowsh stream? Heaven forbid. No, of course not. You need to watch every one of my streams.
Every single
to donate, to
True.
subscribe, to
donate to your streamers. 73 people in here. Could we get to 100 likes today, perhaps? That would be a goal of mine. If you want to throw me $5, normally I do much more hard-hitting political analysis than this, but I'm enjoying doing a little reaction segment, so thanks.
it again. You get it. I hope everyone understands what I'm going on about. I just want you guys to know that in spite of how reasonably you're all reacting here, you got to understand people on Twitter were losing their goddamn minds. The average white person absolutely transparently benefits from white supremacy, not as much as they would benefit from communism. So wait, hold on. If they benefit from white supremacy, but they would benefit more from the absence of white supremacy, how do they benefit from white supremacy? How does that make sense? The analogy that I eventually settled on is if that you have a sibling and an abusive father, and the abusive father has a mode of discipline where he beats you a little bit, but beats the shit out of the other one and allows you to beat them too. Do you, as the person, as the child who is beaten less, benefit from that system?
It's like Gamora versus Nebula. Like, you know, Gamora also is obviously harmed in that dynamic, even though Nebula is harmed in a different way.
Is it in your material self-interest to perpetuate the system as compared to one in which neither of you are beaten at all? Obviously, the answer is, you know, you don't benefit from the system. The system hurts another more than you, but you don't benefit from it. Most of the arguments that I had were semantic. People didn't seem to understand what I meant by benefit versus privileged within, even though I explained it many, many times. But what are you going to do?
It's Twitter.
White people get several benefits from white supremacy: better job prospects, lower sentences, incarceration, greater income. Notice how, again, this individual is talking about privilege over black people. Do you think, then, that the elimination of racism would then mean that white people have lowered income and higher sentences and incarceration? Like, because that's the implication being laid here. It's actually a deeply reactionary argument, because they're essentially saying, no, 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 once we get rid of racism, you know, like, yeah, white people will finally have lower wages. Is that true? Is that is that true? I don't know, man. Nobody ever calls the police on me when I'm in a store. So would white people have police called on them in a store more often if we got rid of racism? You understand, right? It was basically thousands and thousands of comments that are like that. I tried arguing with a few of them, but people just weren't willing to budge. It's very frustrating for me. No, but they would have worse jobs. I don't even really agree with that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that history shows that the acceptance of other racial groups into the broader economy hurts the, like, guys, we literally have and have gone over data on immigration in the United States not hurting the incomes or the jobs of domestic workers. Why are you guys adopting a
it just increases GDP. It increases the amount of money in your community. Yeah, the rising tide raises all ships. Like, they benefit. Everybody benefits when you work together. You know, I was watching again World History on Crash Course, and he was like, counterintuitive to what you would think, historically speaking, looking at different situations, people who have less are more generous. Like, people who have less share more, which I thought was really interesting. And that made me think a little bit about, like, American culture and society, and that if having the plenty that has resulted from industrialization of agriculture, if that has had a negative impact on generosity overall, and if that has contributed overall to hyper individualism, and I think that might be the case. And it also clarifies and makes it make sense that, like, you know, trans people have like $5 that we're all passing around from person to person. Anywho, I just thought that was really interesting. And, like, I mean, you know, you don't want to enforce scarcity necessarily, but you do want people to cooperate more. So it's one of those things. How do you very delicately balance the interests in a society? Which is, I guess, what the whole conversation is about.
In perspective on this, like, that seems to be the argument here. Like, all the lefties in this thread are like, no, it is a zero-sum game, and by elevating other disprivileged groups, we actually have to hurt the privileged groups, you know? But we've gone over immigration data. Immigration doesn't hurt the wages of domestic workers. Why is that? Why does letting in a group of people who are disproportionately poor, or, you know, maybe less educated, I'm talking all immigrants, by the way, like, why does that not hurt the wages of the average American? Well, the reason for that is because the economy is complicated, and there are broad overall benefits to increasing the size of the pot. It's not a finite system, you know? You are correct, so it's silly to argue past what you've already laid out. I just wanted to tie it all together.
It's going to take a minute for it to show up on the Streamlabs because it is really fucking slow. But Scaly Bubble, thank you so much for your 20 pounds. I think that's what that symbol is. Thank you so much. It translates out to just about $25 USD, according to the chat thing. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for that dono. Hey. Number go up. Brr. Thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate y'all hanging out. I start my streams really early on Wednesdays, specifically so that we can get some viewership for you guys over in the UK and all that. So good to know that You all appreciate it. Thank you. It's gonna start.
So you guys
Show up
understood
on
the
the screen
poison of
eventually.
arguing this way. Vowsh. If white people are privileged in job prospects, obviously they will be hurt by removing this privilege. And yet, domestic workers are privileged in our economy when it comes to getting new jobs. But the inclusion of immigrants, or the inclusion of Irish and Italian people back in the 1930s and 40s, or the inclusion of black people, or any other example, doesn't seem to have actually hurt the broader economy for white people. I'm sorry, like you are fully adopting a reactionary perspective. The perspective you're taking is one which implies that there is a zero-sum game that different races have to fight for. It's not true. It's not true. We can all benefit from equality. Yeah, there's only one race, the Tour de France. Do you think capitalism benefits the bourgeoisie? No, I don't think so. Karl Marx wrote on this, by the way. He wrote on how even in the olden days, the aristocracy, members of it, were often quite unhappy because they were subjected to stifling social and economic expectations. The life of a noble person back in the 17 or 1800s, you know, it might have been filled with delicious food and drink and, you know, pretty buildings and so on and so forth. But that doesn't get rid of the deep underlying anxiety of the power and expectations that come with a position like that. I think that equality makes everyone's lives better. I guess the real question is, do you think that people like, I don't know, the Ayatollah or Donald Trump or Kim Jong-un are happy? Not that they're powerful. We know they're powerful. But are they happy? I would say that for the most part, no. I think that Twitter has made this pretty clear when it comes to the lives of celebrities and wealthy people. They're also not very happy. I don't think that power tends to make people happy. I think it can. I think there are kinds of power that can elevate people's lives immensely. But I think it's sociable power. I think it's power that is built through community. I think community organizers or union leaders, even low-level managers, if they're well-liked, I think power like that can make people happy because you feel like you're responsive to the needs of a community. You see them laugh and smile when
that's
you
fair.
tell jokes at your meetings. You want to do right by them. I think that power gets more abstract and less pleasing to people the further up you go. And I think the more democratic a system is, the more potential there is for happiness, you know? To put it another way, I don't think there's much room in the life of somebody like the Ayatollah to look, you know, at the people below him and smile.
Hey, we did make it to 100 likes today. Look at us. That doesn't happen very often. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. I would love to have that be a regular occurrence on the show. Just little incremental. It's like we can usually hit 69 nice, but hitting 100 is sweet. You all are the best. Thank you. I was talking to a conservative associate that I have, and we are able to have civil conversations. I was telling him that I thought it would be a wonderful idea if Biden forgave student loans. His response was, "Why would you feel that way? You had scholarships and didn't have debts. You would be punished." How is that you being punished? Like, if your school is already paid off, how are you being harmed by other people not having debt? Like, you've already paid. A lot of people who have debt have already paid a lot of it off, and they still have debt because of the interest on it. It's ironic coming from him as well, because he's a military officer and all of his education was paid for by the government. Why would he care if people had their loans forgiven? It would help everybody as a nation. Yeah, what if suddenly people don't have to spend $400 a month on their student loans, and a lot of that money is going to the interest and not the principal anyway? Like, why would you not want them spending that money at local restaurants and buying shit on Amazon and otherwise stimulating the economy? That money is just going to a bank, like, and banks don't like then go like spend it in the same way that other people do when you spend your money on people. It's such a weird thing thinking that helping someone else is automatically stealing from you. Like, how does that have anything to do with you? Yeah, it's curious why conservatives feel targeted when something has nothing to do with them.
But if you think of somebody like Bernie Sanders, I think Bernie Sanders is a good example of a person in a very high position of power who's lived his life pretty authentically. And I think that his power is a pretty earnest reflection of the desires and hopes of people beneath him. Not to say he hasn't made mistakes. I'm not defending him, without exception here. But I think that would be an example of somebody who's acted as like a responsible arbiter of power. But yeah, no, I don't think that capitalism improves the lives of the bourgeoisie. I mean, think about it, guys. Why is it that white, upper middle class, suburban people kill themselves more often than like poor black or Hispanic people, right? I would say suicide is probably a pretty strong indicator of social and emotional dysfunction. I mean, it's an indicator, if nothing else. So, what's going on there? The group of people who kills themselves most often, by the way, is old, lonely, or terminally ill white men in their 50s or older. That's the group, The
post-divorce group.
White men in their 50s or older are also the most powerful people in this country. Demographically, that group of people has more power than literally any other. And yet, you understand what I'm getting at here, right? Yes, inequality bad. What you're saying is that white men have it the worst and black people have it the best. Yes. It's a fundamentally anarchist perspective,
True.
We are not free until all of us are free. Just to think of the dozens or hundreds of lives of black people kept in slavery that were brutally treated and ended early. All that excess labor being funneled into the wealth of one person. And what did that one white plantation owner get for all that suffering? An anxiety disorder as he tosses and turns every night in his sleep, worrying that one of the black men he owns will f his wife and she'll like it more than when he fucks her. I'm not kidding. Like that, I'm not kidding. Much in the same way that American fascism, or I guess fascism broadly, is rooted heavily in sexual insecurity, and in America specifically, a fear of...
That's really fascinating. I'm sure that there have got to be Vowsh segments where he goes on about how fascism at its root is, like, dealing with a lot of sexual insecurity. That's very funny. It's kind of why the most stingy and anti-poor people in America are evangelical types. It's better in their minds to be stingy and cruel than to be taken advantage of. It's why so much anti-poor rhetoric focuses on people gaming the system and emphasizes your tax dollars paying for lobster dinner or some other bullshit. I mean, and also that's, predicated on the idea that poor people don't deserve a nice thing once in a while. Like, if I were on food stamps, do you think... And, like, the food stamps carry over from one month to the other, so maybe I even decided to use less of my food stamps and I skipped a few meals in February because my birthday's in March and I really wanted some fucking lobster and I deserve to eat lobster once a year. No, you're not spamming at all. It's fine. I heard an interview with Ayn Rand recently from the 50s where she argued that the government should not even tax rich people to build schools, hospitals, bridges, etc. She said that the government had no right to tell someone who produced wealth to tell them how to spend the money they made. Conservatives seem ass backwards to me philosophically. That's crazy. Yeah, like, that the government has no right to tell someone how to spend their money. Like, okay, but how is a government going to do the things that it needs to do if it doesn't have the resources? Clearly, you can't rely on voluntary donation. Although that is kind of curious. If you're like an extra millionaire, billionaire, then can you like voluntarily pay extra in taxes? Or will they insist on giving it back to you? I guess if you're really that pressed about it, you'll just start donating it to people, but yeah, it would be easier if you could just be like, hey, keep this in taxes. You could keep the trolley from killing millions of people, but that would be disrespectful to the people who already died. Exactly, Yoga Dad. That's a great username.
Black men's sexual potency, perceived sexual potency. Black men are just people. Like that is, it dominates their mind. That is the consequence, all that suffering for absolutely nothing. What are your reparations take? I think it would be very difficult to do reparations based on like individual lineage, but I think that a broad multi-trillion-dollar investment program on infrastructure and economic revitalization in areas that have suffered immensely from this would be a good idea. The lineage thing just seems logistically difficult. It's not necessarily a moral issue I have. It's just like, can you imagine like 100 million people all doing their 23andMe's to try to like argue with the government over whether or not this technically counts? I don't know. who was that person you had to talk about with that? I'm afraid I don't remember his name, but I think he made a very convincing moral argument for person-based.
Okay, that's basically the end of the Vowsh video. Thank you, Shade, for the tier 4 sub. Back to having money again. Give me my red name back. I believe it should be red. It should be red, I think. It's like green, blue, purple, red. I'll just go to Red Lobster for my 30th. I've been craving crab like so much, and I did end up buying some shrimp on sale recently. And so we had shrimp, basically lemon shrimp with pasta. And oh man, it was yummy, but it's like not the same as crab. I want crab in butter so bad. I can't justify buying it. It's expensive. Anyway, as someone who's been on food stamps, I have skimped on food purchases so I can afford frozen pizza for when me and my broke friends wanted to hang out. See? Gotta save things. Okay, yeah, thank you so much for the tier 4 sub. What is it? Is it like 40 bucks? I can't even remember how much it is, but that's what I'm gonna put. That's what I'm gonna add to the total. Cool. Thank you, Shade. Goodness gracious. Much appreciated. Everybody who's donated tonight, everybody who's liked, everybody who's hanging out, we appreciate you. We've reacted to the Vowsh video now, and I had something that I was just about to... I was like, we should do something else right afterward. What was it? I don't remember what it was. Wow! It's the 3-month sub. Oh god, I don't know how much money that is. It doesn't tell me in this this back end here. I would have to go on my phone. I don't remember how much of a discount you get for doing like the 3 months at once. By the way, everybody who has like a recurring subscription, holy cow, thank you so much for that. Okay, so it's like, okay, cool. Let me do the math. So now it's flexing time. It has to be flexing time. Because, yeah, we've got past the stream goal. Thank you. Even more thank you now that I realize that you did 3 months. We have 131 out of the 100 goal. Yay. So now those of you who were here for Vowsh now get to be present for Muscle Mommy Dommy time. Because when I get to the stream goal on my stream, I show off my muscles, which are getting less and less impressive as it's now been 3 weeks since I last went to the gym. Ugh. Okay, is my hat gonna have to come off for this? Ah. We do have other news to talk about after this. State. Hat. Hello. Okay. Pull this up. Okay. Hello. Oh my gosh, my hair is being incredible today. Managed to get it working. Ugh. So my goal is, the next time I go back to the gym, I'm going to go back and do a bunch of cardio. And hopefully, like, basically slim down a little bit. Because there's definitely, like, some belly occurring that I need to divert. And it's like, just lifting weights is not good enough. So I was lifting weights, but that's not... It'll help you build, but it doesn't help you lose anything. You end up with, like, these nice meaty muscles in your back. Shoulders. But yeah, I am really looking forward to going back to the gym. It's gonna be a good time. Donation goal. My worst ex used to work at Kroger. Oh, what's up, Rodwen? He came home one day telling me that someone stole $75 in live lobsters and the camera somehow missed it. Just straight up walking into the Kroger and taking a bunch of live lobsters. That's wild. I'm ready to start going to the gym too. I want to try to get into better shape before April. Yes. I'm basically just going to go to the gym and do cardio until I trim down a certain amount of weight, and then I'm going to switch back to bulking and hopefully gain like a similar amount of weight back afterwards. I like the red. Don't know if you've worn it on stream before. I don't think so. This tank top is old and it's starting to get really, like, baggy, but I decided to wear it because I want it to be comfortable. So there we go. Big muscle mommy. Gorgeous. It was weird when I was a teenager doing powerlifting and also hanging out with cross-country runners. Fit for both those sports are about as radically different as you can get. It's weird shaping your body image in that context. Yeah. Mighty Chip, thank you so much. Oh, don't use your screen name. Sorry, it shows up first. Emily. Hello. Yeah, so now that you have a tier 1 sub, you should be able to change your username. And if you can't, then I can change it. But you're supposed to get, like, with a subscription, you're supposed to be able to get once a month a username change, I think. But anyway, thank you. I just read your username first. So I'm sorry, but you should be able to change it now. Vowsh. Yeah, we're basically done with the Vowsh segment. I appreciate having folks whose videos we can react to, and like it was a really interesting conversation that I think is worth having still. You know, how are men affected by patriarchy? Do they benefit from it? And I think that Vowsh's logic is iron hard, that if you claim that patriarchy benefits men, then you are basically essentially signing up to the argument that therefore the goals of feminism will harm men or will reduce their benefit, which is perceived as a harm. But actually, removing that system would create even more benefits. So you can't really say that patriarchy is a benefit if it's worse than equality. Yeah. Rock hard, iron hard. The best logic. Anyhoozle. So yeah, I did have one thing that I wanted to talk about aside from that. Or I guess a couple of things. So one thing that I do think is interesting, I don't know how well substantiated this is though, so I don't know if I want to cover this from this website. I need some iron hard logic in my life. True. The name change isn't enabled until later. Okay. Yeah, check back later. Sometimes, yeah, it takes a minute for stuff to load on the back end. Rock hard logic. It's rock hard. Actually, this one is not, but you know what I mean. I got so many mushrooms on my desk. So many various mushrooms and their phallic shapes. Just so many mushrooms. It's ridiculous. Okay, but yeah, so there was something specific. Oh yeah, the lawsuit. I want to talk about the lawsuit. Okay, it's something on, I think I retweeted it on Twitter. Bro, how do you get muscles? I can do cardio, but not muscles. So I go to the gym. When I go to the gym to lift weights, I'm doing it 4 days a week. Monday and Tuesday is arms, and then Monday and Thursday is arms. Tuesday and Friday are legs. And I just try to make sure things stay nice and rounded. You switch your exercises every 6 to 8 weeks. Like maybe switch to only doing cardio, but yeah, I mean, there's I put a lot of thought into my workouts and like how I'm going to do things exactly. Repetitive exercises, and you feed them like pets. Yeah. So I did discover in December, because I was trying to lose fat while I was building muscle. For my body, at least, you do actually have to choose one or the other. So I'm either going to build muscle and eat a lot of food in order to accommodate building that muscle, or I need to do a lot of cardio and like be mindful of what I'm eating in order to like reduce fat. Like those, I think, need to be two different processes for me. But yeah, you just do repetitive exercises. Like, you know, and it helps to go to a gym that has equipment, so that way you're not just like dealing with free weights. It can be hard to do if you haven't established that core. Oh, by the way, I will also say you should do core specific exercises. So, you should not be like, oh, whatever, I stabilize myself during my exercises. That's enough. No, at the end of ideally every workout, basically your cool down process should include ab specific work. I've decided to steal your schedule with 2 arm and leg days, plus I divided my core exercises to do half a core day on each arm and leg day. I did cardio on Sunday, but I think I'll move it to Wednesday for a nice 5-day workout schedule. That's probably going to be what I end up doing. First of all, I'm going to start doing cardio probably 4 days a week. And then when I am ready to switch back from cardio, I'll just have Wednesdays be cardio day. And then the other days, I'll still do my regular workouts. But yeah. It's unfortunate that people's bodies burn muscle and fat both in calorie deficit mode, and that ratio isn't very well in your control. Yeah, like I was trying to lose fat in December, and my muscles just ended up not growing as much as I wanted them to. Being consistent is the most important thing, Yoga Dad points out, which is true. I think that's true. Okay, yeah. So, okay, here's a really great piece of information, which is amazing, and I want to read about it. We do trans politics on this show. Welcome, Vowsh viewers. I like elliptical for cardio because it's the only one that seems to not make my legs sore. I plan on using the elliptical for cardio as well. Did you talk about the Florida driver's license ban? Nope, I have not. I feel like, I have a hard time talking about the Florida ban on driver's licenses because there's part of me that's like, okay, and where were all of you fucking people when Kansas had their driver's license ban like a few months ago, like last year? So it's like there's a weird sensation I have that like Florida's law is going to be challenged where Kansas law isn't. Exercise bikes in VR. Ooh, VR. True. Like Beat Saber and stuff. Ooh. A couple of years ago, there was a drag race participant from RuPaul's Drag Race who was called bad things on Twitter. The kind of things that people call trans women and drag queens. Those kind of terms that indicate that you're trying to come harm children. And the person who said those things to this drag queen was Laurence Fox. And there's now been a high court ruling on this libel case that has been going on for a few years now. So the drag artist's name is Colin Seymour. Let me make this bigger. Are there a bunch of ads? Is that what the problem is? Yeah, there's a bunch of ads. Okay, cool. Because this apparently is a page that won't let ad block work. Great. So, former RuPaul Drag Race contestant, the drag artist whose real name is Colin Seymour, uses the stage name Crystal, became embroiled in a legal battle with Fox, Laurence Fox, after the former actor branded Seymour and ex-Stonewall trustee Simon Blake, both people who want to harm children, during a bitter social media row. They had an acrimonious exchange. It was sparked by a decision by Sainsbury's to provide a safe space for Black employees during Black History Month. And Laurence Fox called for a boycott of the supermarket for that. So in response, actor Nicola Thorpe and Seymour accused Fox of being racist, and then he responded by calling them the P slur for harming children. And so it's interesting. They were calling him racist initially, and so he called them that. And as a response, then they sued, or I guess at least this drag queen sued for defamation, essentially. And I think that the Laurence Fox, tried to countersue and was like, actually, you're racist. Like, you can't call me racist. That's defamation. So, let's see. Is there any more detail on this? Because there was... I don't know if this is going to go into it here, but basically the courts said that his accusation that they were slandering him by calling him racist was inaccurate. So essentially, in this particular ruling, I think that this dude was essentially told, like, yeah, actually, the court officially says you're racist. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry, Lord Byron. I don't want to ride a bicycle in the city because of that reason. Like, I think that there are plenty of drivers who will hit you on purpose. It's tough when you're transitioning to as well. Yeah, like starting to get catcalled and all. Court certified racist. A court certified racist. True. So this is interesting because it opens up the door. You know, the reason why this lawsuit went the way that it did, I believe, is that this was in the UK. The UK has different freedom of speech laws than we do in the US. It's easier to sue someone for libel or slander in the UK. So this is great precedent because it means that when British transphobes call trans people like groomers and the P word, that means that this trans people, they might not have the money to start with, but there is precedent that they can win a court case of the libel accusation. So I think that ultimately this could open the door to a pretty significant change in the rhetoric surrounding trans people from UK transphobes, at least. Doesn't affect people in America, but yeah, so at least if you are a citizen of Britain, of England, and J.K. Rowling calls you a you know, a groomer, then you have the ability to sue her now, potentially. 111 likes right now, 111 likes. Thank you so much, you guys. Oh my god. We probably have a grab bag of other news that we could talk about as well. Because I don't know that I had like a lot substantially to say about this libel case. But it does mean, yeah, that we have the potential for some really significant change in how people on Twitter talk about this. Like, it could put a pretty big dent in UK transphobia. Oh yeah, this is the thing that I wanted to talk about. There was a crackdown on gay bars in Seattle. And I wanted to look at this story because I haven't really looked into it in depth, but I do know that folks were talking about it. Make sure that I have my various links. Okay. Okay, you put something in the stream, Rex, about that as well. I knew that I retweeted something about it. Okay, we're about to do another news segment here in a second, y'all. Okay. I think I have enough articles now. If there's one thing that's been consistent throughout American history, especially in the last 50 to 60 years, is that there will be crackdowns on gay people and gay bars especially, both from police and from rogue actors, but in this case, just regular old police, just regular old police stuff. So there were some gay bars in Seattle, surprise, that were raided by local authorities, apparently because of some lewd conduct allegations kind of law. So let's see, let me make this bigger. Let's see this one as well. Ah. Okay, I can't look at that unless I'm logged into Instagram, apparently. So this is a very recent story coming out, just this week, end of January. There were several venues, including 4 LGBTQ plus bars, that were targeted in a joint enforcement team effort, which was a coalition of local authorities, including Seattle Police and the State Liquor and Cannabis Board. Originally reported by The Stranger. Is that this? Yeah. Okay. Marching into a gay bar to issue citations feels a bit vintage in 2024. That's a great way to start the article. Love this. So allegedly they found a bartender had an exposed nipple and there were people wearing jock straps in the club. And the law enforcement can cite you for those things in Washington if there's also alcohol being sold on the premises. So at 12:30 on Saturday morning, so at just after midnight, there were some folks, like some police officers, who came into some of these bars. They saw the offending nipple, a violation of state law that Jet may penalize in some way. Like, basically, at gay bars, sometimes the guy bartenders will take off their shirts for extra tips. I know this because I follow a gay bartender on YouTube. But yeah, it's technically because like, I guess liquids come out of nipples sometimes. You are not allowed to have exposed nipples in a place that serves food and drink, I suppose. But it's about the selective application of these things. Like, the selective application, the fact that you're using sort of abstract laws that are unrelated to the gayness, but you're still policing gayness in the same way, And that's the thing that they're doing all across the country with the book bannings, like, or with restricting how you express yourself in public. They're claiming it's trying to protect people from lewd, lascivious content, and the result is just that you crack down on queer people, because that's the objective, is to crack down on queer people, as always. Let's see. Apparently, they also entered a venue called the Lumberyard, and they registered no violations. Okay, so they were... Okay, of the 15 places enforcement inspected over the weekend, 4 were gay clubs, 2 were hookah lounges, 1 was a college bar, 1 was a hot dog stand, 1 a music venue, 1 a dive bar, another bowling alley, another a bar and grill, 1 a roller rink, a lounge, and some people who were selling clothes on Pine Street. So there wasn't... I'm getting the impression, like, was there evidence of wrongdoing prior? Both bars have been cited for similar reasons before. Would they just go out with the intent to find some violations? This is the impression that I'm getting. Like, they mustn't have had evidence at 12:30 at night that someone had an exposed nipple, unless there was a cop in the bar doing undercover reconnaissance. So they busted up these bars and other businesses, like, what, in order to find out if a crime was being committed? So, like, the police are just going into businesses and going, let me double check there's no crime happening here. Okay. Yeah, strip clubs and alcohol are apparently fine in the same building, but not gay bars. Interesting. Yeah, it's the same BS from the 60s and 70s. They always come up with some other violation that has nothing to do with gay people, allegedly. I have to sneeze. I was like, is there a sneeze gonna happen now? Maybe. No? Yes? No? Apparently one of these bar owners has been dealing with this problem since Pride of 2022, when the LCB cited the bar for a customer wearing a jockstrap. Since then, the bar staff have had to monitor the fashion choices, ban jockstraps, ask patrons to pull up their pants. He says he's seen a decline in business because people assume that the bar is going to regulate their bodies, despite signage that he's put up explaining the pressure they're facing from the state. it's a hard conversation to have at night in a crowded bar where people just want to drink and like they're getting annoyed about it. And it's a gay bar, so they're used to dressing in a certain way. They're not going into other bars the same as this, Burgess claims. Yeah, a lot of these other businesses are not bars. The other businesses don't even seem to have a lot in common, except that, like, you can cite them for food-related issues. Of course, the statement officially is that, oh, there is no emphasis on patrolling activity at LGBTQ establishments or any crackdown on lewd conduct violations. The actions of the weekend were the result of routine work by LCB and other agencies. Well, if it's a result of routine work, how are these businesses reporting like a loss of income? But why the police and not health department? That's another question. I guess you can't send in the health department as easily at 12:30 on a fucking Saturday night. At 12:30 on a Saturday night. They go in and they're like, let me double check you don't have your nipples out. Oh yeah, on paper, legal language is neutral. Plus prosecutorial and officer discretion. Tale as old as time. Apparently, someone has filed a complaint about the situation with the Office of Police Accountability. So the Seattle Police Department is unable to comment because there is an active investigation occurring at the time. LGBTQ caucus locally is going to be discussing this. So there were lewd conduct violations given to the Cuff Complex and a third bar, and apparently that inspectors will be, quote, following up with the licensee. No citations were issued to the Seattle Eagle over clothing violations. So basically, we're experiencing the same type of stuff that we've been experiencing, where cops will just come in and, you know, it's not even about them finding anything. They don't have to find anything. There was another bar that they went into that didn't end up getting any citations, but I'm sure that people still freaked out and probably were like, oh my god, we need to leave, I need to go home. Free the nipple, but to be frank, in my case, I'd need a body-sized hairnet to work around food. Oh, the hair. It's always so fun. 114 likes. Wow. I need to make Vowsh my content cow more often, apparently, because this stream has done remarkably well. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. I honestly don't know that I had a lot of other news to talk about today. Let me see if I can find any more stuff that I retweeted or put in my notes. Oh, this is a fun little update. You guys remember we talked recently about in the Iowa State House, there was a Satanic Temple religious display in the State House, along with, I'm sure that there was like a little, I think there was a menorah and little Jewish display. I don't know if there was a Christian display, but there was this Satanist display. And there was a guy who had previously run for office and lost in Mississippi, I think. But for some reason he was in Iowa, and he destroyed parts of the satanic display. And he ended up getting charged with like 4th degree criminal mischief or something really absurdly low. They were just like, slap on the wrist, like, whatever, we don't care that you destroyed someone's religious display. Even though when we were discussing it in chat, it's like, that seems pretty obviously like a hate crime. It kind of seems like you're a Christian who like destroyed a satanic temple thing and it was a hate crime. But apparently it wasn't at the time, except that now we've had a release showing, okay, Mississippi man charged with 3rd degree criminal mischief in violation of individual rights. This was the original thing, but I guess they've increased the charges. His charges have been upgraded to a hate crime. with 5 years in jail because he admitted he did it because of the religion. So this is the original, I guess this is the original documentation. Oh, okay, here it says, in addition, evidence shows the defendant made statements to law enforcement and the public indicating he destroyed the property because of the victim's religion. That does enhance the charge to third-degree criminal mischief in violation of individual rights, a Class D felony. So it was fourth-degree criminal mischief, and now confirmed it is a hate crime, third-degree criminal mischief. And that is why you never talk to the police. No worries, Noah. Have a good night. Never talk to those people. True. Equal protection under the law. Under the law. I'm glad I don't have to talk about this thing from Iowa. They ended up striking it down, so I don't have to talk about it. Okay, we have Al Jazeera on this. Don't want to talk about good news? What? I'm going to talk about a good news real quick. Apparently, Biden and several other individual members of the U.S. government, I believe, is being sued for complicity in genocide. Iowa thing getting killed is good, IMO. But yeah, but then I have to explain all the details of it. Like, I just don't want to go into it. Because also, like, I don't know, I have maybe an unorthodox opinion on the ADA and, like, disability application and why trans people are excluded from it. Like, I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, so a U.S. court, I think in California, is hearing a civil case, not a criminal case, a civil case, accusing Biden of, quote, complicity in Gaza genocide. The plaintiffs want the federal court to urge the U.S. to use its influence to get Israel to end hostilities in Gaza. Lawyers representing Biden, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin attended Friday's proceedings, along with the plaintiffs, who accused them of, quote, failure to prevent and complicity in the Israeli government's unfolding genocide. The Center for Constitutional Rights, CCR, is a U.S. civil liberties group, and they filed the lawsuit on behalf of the human rights organization Defense for Children Palestine, and also on behalf of a Palestinian human rights group, and on behalf of 8 Palestinians and U.S. citizens with relatives in Gaza. So basically, the complaint was first filed in November last year, and it said that Biden, Blinken, and Austin, quote, have not only been failing to uphold the country's obligation to prevent a genocide, but have enabled the conditions for its development by providing unconditional military and diplomatic support to Israel. And it's asking the court to declare that defendants have violated their duty under customary international law as part of federal common law to take all measures within their power to prevent Israel from committing genocide against the Palestinian people of Gaza. It's curious how this is going to turn out. It's just a civil suit. In response, the lawyers for the Biden administration are focusing on a very narrow legal argument. They are simply saying the court does not have the authority to rule on this. They're citing what's called the political doctrine, and it has to do with separation of powers in the United States. So I guess they're probably going to claim that, like, similar to how police can't be held civilly liable for the damages that they incur during the performance of their duty. I wonder if it's a similar thing where they're like, you can't sue us as president and government members because we were performing our duties. I'm not really sure. Lawyers are arguing that the conduct of foreign policy, diplomacy, military activities, and the relations between allies are in the, quote, political purview of the executive branch, in other words, the president and the cabinet, and therefore not amenable to judicial action by other branches of power that make the U.S. government. So they're like, you can't do checks and balances on us if the issue is foreign policy, I guess. What's like later, Lord Byron, later. I guess he's basically, yeah, they're basically saying there is no such thing as checks and balances because the executive branch has unilateral authority to conduct diplomacy as it sees fit. I am so curious how that's going to turn out, how that argument is going to go in court. So this is very early on. I think, it was filed in November. We've had an appearance in court now. But I think that this particular case... Oh, okay. Apparently the judge appeared to also question his authority in the case. So maybe this one will just get thrown out really easily. But it is interesting that people are making an attempt to go after Biden with at least a civil lawsuit if he can't be held criminally liable for contributing to an ongoing genocide, then at least we have some civil liability, but probably not. So it's a fun little factoid, but probably not going to be all that serious. I don't think any of these little bits throughout here are going to be segments, like proper segments on the show. I'm almost caught up. I'm hoping that I'll be able to take my vacation starting next week so I can get caught up and like schedule posts. And then I'm going to dip and just not be around for a couple weeks and like rest and recover and take a real break. Hyper's in chat if you think your streamers should take a fucking week off every once in a while. It's been 2 years. Like right before my 2-year anniversary, I'm going to go on a little short vacay. Gorgeous. Breaks are praxis. True. I invited Demon Mama on, and I don't know if she ever read the message because it was on Discord, but I wanted to have Demon Mama on and talk about how taking a break is praxis. Like, because she goes on vacations and she posts pictures from her road trips, being out in nature and everything. And I think that there is a conversation to be had about the political importance of taking a break. And, how that can be a form of praxis, like getting offline, spending time with real people in your real community, building real connections that are not going to be broken by some random bullshit drama on the internet. Yeah, I think there is a political significance to that. Maybe I should message her on Twitter. She might be more likely to respond and just be like, hey, do you want to like call into my show? You don't have to be on camera or anything. Not everybody can be a Hassan and stream every day for like 9 hours. I don't get it either. I mean, he has someone else editing his content. I, at the very minimum, can't edit every day because at some point I have to stop so that I can edit my own content. I am so close to being caught up. And then once I'm caught up, I'll take my little break and then I'll be on a regular schedule and there will never be an issue with my videos ever again. Gorgeous. Jiminy Christmas. What else should we talk about today? I don't have anything else in my collection of notes. Is there anything else that I want to talk about in the stream recommendations channel? Oh yeah, Elon. So this is the same judge. Stop trying to get me to fucking turn off my ads. I don't care. Please leave me alone. I hate you so much. Yeah, sometimes you need to get out and hug a person instead of being in front of a monitor if you like hugs. I love hugs. I'm a big fan of hugs. I typically get like at least a couple hugs a day, generally. Unless my partner and I are having a tiff, in which case I miss out on hugs for a couple days. But, let us laugh at Money Clown. Let's do it. Can we talk about protein intake? Because apparently I need to be taking in 130 g of protein every day, which is very freaking difficult to do. I don't know why it's so hard to gain, like, to get enough protein in you to build the muscle that you're supposed to be building. I guess that's why you have to, like, do multiple different sources of protein. I will say, I recently learned that you can make, like, a protein pudding with the extra soft tofu and some chocolate and with a third ingredient. Not sure what it was. Maybe a tiny bit of salt. And then you just blend it together, and then you let it sit in the refrigerator for like 6 hours, and it sets into like a chocolate mousse or a chocolate pudding, but that is full of tofu and therefore a bunch of protein. So, and it's like, I think it's way more protein compared to how much chocolate you put in there. So, little tip from me to you. Okay. Please let me witness the article. It's crazy how sometimes you'll green light and you'll say, okay, I'll let you show ads on this so that I can read the article. And then it's immediately some intense, crazy, invasive, entire screen covering ad. So this is, I believe, the same judge that required him to purchase Twitter. So yeah, this is a Delaware judge who tossed out Elon Musk's record-breaking $56 billion Tesla pay package on Tuesday, calling the compensation granted by the EV maker's board, quote, an unfathomable sum that was unfair to shareholders. So they were trying to... They were trying to make it so that $56 billion was his takeaway? Maybe I should eat a dozen eggs every day. That will cover 72 grams. That is so much cholesterol. Yeah, you gotta be careful. The ruling, which can be appealed, nullifies the largest pay package in corporate America. The judge found the share-based compensation was negotiated by directors who appeared beholden to Musk, currently ranked by Forbes magazine as the world's richest person. Tesla's 10-year pay agreement with Musk, reached in 2018, would be worth around $51 billion at Tuesday's closing price for Tesla stock. So basically, I think he has to give some of it back too. Like, he's already been given some of this money, and he has to give some of it back. Why does it not say? Sometimes I'm like, these articles have a lot of words in them. I don't know if this one goes into the fact that he's supposed to pay some of it back. Anyway, that's always fun. Yeah, okay, it was a stock option, so he has to repay 3/5 of what he was given. Yeah, the $56 billion is paid in stock over 10 years. This started 5 years ago, so he's got... Dude, this judge has something against Elon's pocketbook big time. This doesn't really help with maximizing protein intake per se, but vegetables like broccoli and spinach can help add more protein to a salad without adding meat. Yeah, I think if you can get dehydrated milk or like non-sweetened condensed milk, you can add more milk per milk to things that you would be putting milk in it. Excuse me. Oh, he does have to return all of it. He's not going to be considered the richest man in the world for much longer, I don't think. If he keeps getting, like, hemorrhaged of money at every turn. Like, just consistently taking L's over and over and over. Nutritional yeast is a great salad add-in with low-calorie, high-protein. Nutritional yeast, you can just add that to your other foods. The judge screwed him right before Valentine's Day. Oh god, I don't want to think about Valentine's Day. I have like a doctor's appointment on Valentine's Day, and then I have another doctor thing the day after Valentine's Day, and then I have another appointment 2 days after Valentine's Day. It's gonna be a great week. Stop pronouncing it Elon and start pronouncing it L-on, because he's taken so many L's. L's. Nutritional yeast is also great on popcorn. I like it better than butter because it doesn't get on your hands. Is it advertised as being nutritional yeast? Is that what it would be described as? Elon, he's so fucked up. This also gives the board of Tesla what they need to oust him, which they've wanted to do for a long time. SpaceX will probably follow suit. Get him the hell out of there. Please. The only thing he's gonna have left is Twitter. He's gonna make it even worse somehow. He's gonna somehow make it even worse. It's the only thing that he's gonna be in charge of anymore. Lots of people call it nooch. Nooch. Fascinating. That is such a fucking lifter bro thing to say. Yeah, my nooch. My nutritional yeast, or, you know, my nooch. Maybe if it's his only asset, he'll sell it to have any kind of liquidity. Right. Otherwise, he might lose the house. It started in the vegan community, but yes. Vegans be eating mad nooch. Oh, man, that's... I hate that you made me say that. Twitter did all of this to him. The judge came down super hard because he was tweeting shitty stuff similar to Trump. Oh, yeah, like shit-talking the judge? Great idea. He sold the house and he either lives in his office or a small container house. He can't yet. Really? Did he already? I don't know. Not gonna make any spurious claims. It's very funny. Oh god, there's so much bullshit happening on Twitter right now. Tesla is no longer the world's biggest electric car company. It's BYD now. I'm not familiar with BYD. You should separate egg whites from the yolk. That way you get albumin and all the good stuff from the egg with minimum cholesterol. Are you supposed to eat the white and not the yolk? I don't think that's a world that I want to live in. I don't think that I want to live in a world where I can't eat the yolks of my eggs. Although that is a thing. If I'm considering keeping chickens, and that is going to increase the number of eggs in my diet, likely, because I just don't want them to go bad. So I guess at some point I will have to start getting rid of the yolks. But I guess the good thing is that you can take the yolks and, like, mix them up into other food and then give them to your chickens, and they'll eat, you know, all that delicious stuff. Everybody knows what pure egg whites look like. You didn't have to say it. Oh, God. I don't actually think they look like jism. I think that it's more of a snot thing going on. There's like lots of lotions out there that look like jism. But I don't think pure egg whites. I don't know. I mean, I would make the joke about trans girls jism, but it's so watery. Are egg yolks actually bad for you? It's that they have a lot of cholesterol in them. So if you eat a lot of them, then yes, it can be bad for you over time. It's too thick to be trans girl jism. I don't actually know if that's any safer on the YouTube. Like, I don't know if saying jism is any better than saying cum, but I figure we'll try. Elon Musk has created a Twilight Zone-esque situation where he has paid $44 billion to have a platform dedicated to hating him. It's true. Okay, apparently I'm wrong about girl jism. It's not thin, apparently. Okay, fine. Is it as thick as an egg white, though? Like, is egg white the right comparison to make? Now we're doing smuggy chat. You just had to wait until the end of the stream. I have a headache, y'all. It's gonna be great. I'm so looking forward to dealing with that later. I do have to say, really quick, and I know that most of you are not gonna care, but I'm really excited about another season of House of the Dragon. It's supposed to come out this year. It's supposed to come out this year. When is it supposed to come out? House of the Dragon. Oh, I think that Matt Smith maybe slipped that there was going to be a potential release in like August. So maybe that's what Matt Smith said during an interview, but I don't know. There's no actual release announced. But I am so excited. It's my show. Remember the Egg Prime Directive. Don't force things to come out before their time. It's not like water, but really to get a comparison, you need to get a girl going. Fair enough, fair enough. Okay. Perhaps a midsummer release of 2024? I can't remember when it was released initially anyway. But yeah, there's no specific date on season 2, but it is supposed to be this year, and I'm so excited. You gotta have things to look forward to. Your show coming out, the springtime in the community garden. Like, otherwise, you are just gonna drown in hopelessness forever. You have to give yourself a sensation that this is not what life is gonna be like every day from now on. You gotta do something different. I think that's part of the benefit to doing things like just going to the zoo every once in a while. I'm not saying that zoos are good, they're usually bad. But my point being is, you know, having some variety in the same way that you can't eat the same food every day or you'll want to genuinely kill yourself. You kind of can't do the same thing every day. So like you go to the gym or you go on a trip, you go camping. You just kind of like have to disrupt your routine sometimes. I ate a burrito every single day. Burritos are fucking delicious. I'm gonna have to eat right after the show. I'm so hungry. I know, I think it's such a shitty thing that Elon named the company Tesla. Like now this whole man's legacy is wrapped up in fucking Elon Musk's buffoonery. The show The Boys keeps releasing trailers for season 4 that say coming soon, and all the comments are like, give us a date. And they're like, here's another trailer that says coming soon. And on it goes. We've had one teaser trailer for season 2 of House of the Dragon. Oh, Elon didn't name the company Tesla, he just happened to ruin it. Okay, fair enough. Elon truly is the Thomas Edison derogatory of our time. It's accurate. He steals everything he does. Allegedly. Did anybody watch Ty Turner's video where he was talking about that Invisible Aligners company? It was, I don't really watch Ty Turner's videos that often, but this one caught my eye. And I decided to watch it. It's called Smile Direct Club Jacked Me Up. And it was really funny because he's like, he's repeatedly throughout the thing like, I have to be clear that this is all alleged. You know, I don't want them to spuriously sue me for making any statements. So he's like repeatedly in the video, like, he says something really damning. And then he's like, allegedly, in my opinion. And it's just, oh my God, it's really funny. Highly recommend. I bet you the real Tesla would punch Elon in the face and then go home to his pigeon. He had a little pet pigeon. Didn't he also have like a boyfriend? Nikola Tesla is one of those people that people claim he died a virgin, but actually he was just gay, right? He was in love with the pigeon. He was married to the pigeon? No way. Was he the original? He was the original I have a gamer waifu? He was the original I'm in love with my pillow. Allegedly. We need to put some respect on Mrs. Tesla's name, okay? She is his wife. She deserves your respect. She has a hard life out there, okay? She doesn't even know how to build a nest anymore. It's hard out there being a pigeon mom. Oh, gosh. It's been a good show today. It's been a nice, relaxed, chill show. This is one of the things that I want to bring. Like, we have the hard-hitting, skeptical analysis. We've got the anti-trans news. But we also just have vibes. We have chillness. We have rationality. Tesla was, quote, in love with the pigeon. I think he was probably asexual, to be honest. Fair enough. Yeah, what's up, Shade? Happy to be back. Happy to have you back. Parasocially. I have to be careful about this because someone recently was like, I literally thought that we were friends because he called me by name in the chat. And I'm like, no, I'm so sorry. That's not how this works. Super weird. I still don't know if that person was being for real or not, but it was strange to experience in the Discord server. Ugh. Yeah, it was really interesting. They were trying really hard to get me to unban them. I had banned them in the YouTube chat, and then they were trying to get unbanned in the Discord. Didn't go very well. It's a crazy world we live in. Absolutely silly. Too much stuff going on every day. I think, you know, taking a bit of a break and just watching Vowsh talk about some really silly, pointless discussion on Twitter is like a nice relieving break. Like on Twitter, most of my Twitter right now is just like destroyed buildings, dead children, you know, like it's like Palestine, like repeatedly, and bad things happening in the US with trans laws and all this. So sometimes we're just gonna like say no. Say not today, Satan. Don't make me think about hard things that I don't want to deal with. Okay? Sometimes I want to fantasize about surviving the climate apocalypse. Like, that's what I like doing sometimes. Is that an orange or red tank? I think it's red. But the lighting is... I don't know. Like, I think it's red. It looks red to me. It's a comfy tank. It turns out, I have a million t-shirts, and it turns out that I don't like wearing t-shirts anymore. So I basically every day wear a tank top and like a hoodie over it, and that's just how I exist nowadays. Surely when I get back into feeling better about myself, I will start wearing, and when it gets warmer, frankly, I can wear cute outfits. And boost myself by looking cute. Nikola Tesla really loved animals, and he was the first Serbian that was queer that we know of. Interesting. I did not know that. I've donated so many t-shirts, it's ridiculous. I know. A lot of mine now are ones that are like, they have something on them I don't want to get rid of, or they are from a certain event and I don't want to get rid of it. And I've kind of I've contemplated turning them into crop tops, but, you know, crop tops are risky for anyone. Yeah, I love the crop tops I own now, therefore I've donated a lot of t-shirts. Most of my Twitter feed is people posting transphobes are bullying this trans podcaster because she doesn't live up to their narrow standards of womanhood. And the pics are just various anti-trans figures like Kelly J. Keane or J.K. Rowling, and transphobes are falling for it every time. Yeah, like it's J.K. Rowling from before she had gender-affirming facial surgery done. When her eyes were still super baggy, you know? Every fucking time they're falling for it. Well, y'all, I feel like we've done pretty good chill stream time tonight. This stream has definitely been the highlight of my 30th. I learned so much listening to these coverages, even if the content itself can be rough. Thank you for your honest and good work, Luxander. Thank you, Solace, for choosing to hang out with us here on your 30th birthday. I'm going to be turning 30 soon, so I will join you in our elderly age next couple months, 2 months from now. And yeah, thank you for hanging out. But yeah, get gender-affirming surgeries, such as Steven Crowder getting for his concave chest. Gotta puff it out. What's the schedule like again now? So currently, we stream on Sundays at 12 p.m. Central, so at noon, usually for about 4 hours. And then we also stream on Wednesdays starting at 4 p.m. Central, again, usually for about 4 hours. Today's is a little bit shorter, but yeah. So twice a week, streaming live, pretty much daily uploads. That's the schedule now. So, yay. I'm going to go eat some dinner. So you all enjoy your evening, and much parasocial love, and I'll see you on Sunday. Probably.